Actually, we're a minute early, Bob, according to our clock. What do you got?
Potatoes and eggplant?
We're live?
Talk to you about it. Here he is.
10 more seconds, we'll let him sit. You're actually on time. 3, 2, 1. Perfect. Exactly. Okay. Good evening and welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting for October 6, 2020. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, all selectmen are present, as is Town Council Richard Bowen and Town Administrator Derek Sullivan.
Okay, Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Mackey.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Announcements. Alan.
You okay?
Couple real quick things. One, unfortunately, we had another shooting in Texas this time. Looks like a black person who was pretty much innocent got tased and then shot, which just ramps it up again. I guess the police officer, unfortunately, has already been, I guess, arrested for murder, which is really kind of harsh right off the bat. The other piece, of course, is our president has kind of scoffed at the idea of wearing a mask and, walking around as if there's no problem. And of course, he now has come down with COVID and has spread it to the White House everywhere. And I hope people understand that this is not a joke. Thank you.
Yep. Patrick?
No, I'll pass, thank you.
Jim? Nothing? Judy?
Yep, I have a couple, thank you. Just want to remind people that Damien's Pantry is open Thursdays and Saturdays from 9 to 11:30. Church of the Good Shepherd has takeout dinners from 4 to 5 every Thursday, and the first Tuesday of the month from 3 to 5 they have a food pantry. Onset Foursquare, which is closed today, but every Tuesday has from 4:30 to 6 meals to go. Gleason Family YMCA is offering treats for costumes this year, as it did last year. You can sign up from 9 to 1. You could look on the website. If you turn in a costume, you get a ticket or a voucher. The costumes will be selling between $2 and $10. Want to remind everybody that Imagination Library is still being sponsored by the Friends of the Wareham Free Library. It's a program that was instituted by Dolly Parton. For $25 a year per child, each child from the age of 0 to 5 years old who are residents of Wareham will get one book per month mailed to their home address. I know several children who have taken advantage of it. It's a wonderful program. Look at the website for the free library, or you can find actually the advertisements for it on most of the social media sites. And again, I just want to say there's some absolutely gorgeous pictures out there on our social media sites. Thank you very much, guys and gals, for calling attention to how beautiful this town is.
Anything else? If you haven't been paying attention to the weather forecast, it's supposed to be pretty windy tomorrow, so be careful. If you've got loose items in your yard, get them stowed before noontime tomorrow, because that's when the high wind warning supposedly starts. So just be careful out there. Let's see. Citizens' comments. Is anybody here to speak to the board tonight? I'll start in the back. That's you. Yep.
Thank you so much.
Right, you've got to come up and use the microphones. Yep. Otherwise, it won't be picked up.
Okay, I've never done this before. Please pardon me.
That's okay. We don't bite.
And that's the thing. I have been.
You got to sit right down and put your face right in it. Otherwise, it won't pick up.
Right here?
These are very.
Yeah, and if you'd like to wipe the table down with one of those wipes before you sit down, put your hands on it, feel free to. We are.
Thank you.
Or if you want to sanitize your hands when you leave.
Thank
And
you.
make sure that you pull the mic close to you, please.
Excellent.
How'd it go?
There you go.
Yeah, did you see that? I'm so nervous.
Don't be nervous.
Okay.
Oh, and the.
They don't come out that way. You have to pull it have to take the whole top off.
This is tricky.
It's a test.
Really?
Yeah, no,
Because I've
No.
been known to break things like this.
Oh, it might work better if you did.
Just one.
from the middle, or whatever.
There we go.
Thank you.
Wanna
Oh, you're
pass
so
that over to
patient.
me?
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
A lot of extra help. All right, I'm grabbing a mic.
Yep. Tell us who you are and what you're here for.
Hi, my name is Christina Lisa Burbank. Thank you for being so patient with me. This is my first time here, and I'm a little nervous. I'm a refugee in your town, and thank you for having me here. I may not sound like a refugee. I have a long story, and it's probably not so much for here, but I'm here about the fortune-telling license. So I thought I'd introduce myself. I'm also a master teacher mentor out of Arizona. I was a second cadre, studied with underneath Janet Napolitano before she went to Washington for Homeland Security, and to help keep teachers in the classroom. And on nonviolence, truth, and his 9 other vows, Gandhi says that home is the first university and parents are the teachers. So I love to work with youth and family, and I left teaching to take another route to help youth and family get equity and justice in the classroom. And I am Black. I am Romani, and my tribe comes from Finland. Is it true that Wareham is
Yes.
also called Eastern Fintown?
Yes.
I feel so at home here in a way that I was never allowed to feel at home there because I was cast out for being half Romani. And once I got here, gypsies are hidden. So I wasn't able to claim it here either until this past decade of Romani inclusion, 2005 to 2019. It ended up extending, and I became a part of it after No Child Left Behind, after working there. And it was very parallel. We want every student to succeed. So, hi, just introducing myself. I'd like to share a different type of leading and learning, 21st century style, and I just want to be legitimate about where I come from, and fortune telling, playing the cards. I feel like I was a history teacher. That's part of how our nation started. The cards, the maps, building our Constitution. So I'm interested to discuss with you all about that today. Thank you for hearing me out and being so patient. And if I seem witchy, I'm undergoing systemic abuse and neglect. My people are called Kalle or Mustalainen in Finnish, which means black. And I wasn't able to even say that out loud or even pronounce my name until the past decade. So thank you for being so patient with me.
It's fine.
Could you spell your last name for us, please?
Burbank. My husband, B-U-R-B-A-N-K,
Thank you.
B-A-N-K. He was born at Toby Hospital in 58. So,
Thank
thank
you.
you. And I look forward to getting to know all of you more. I just,
Thanks.
so nervous. I just,
Don't be nervous.
thank you.
wouldn't be-
It's
I
hard
wouldn't
when
be
you've
too
been
nervous.
abused and it's still going on. And
Yeah,
if
but
you look
history-
at what we're talking about today, and it becomes more apparent how it all ties into an orphan and a cast-off and a Romani who were still left out of life through and K-12 standards and books.
You're not the first brush we've had with fortune tellers. When I was a kid, right up until, and it must have been there for 25 or 30 years at least, there was a palm reader on Cranberry Highway
Oh,
who had a
Rosie's
business reading
Palm.
palms and fortune telling. Katie's palm reading.
Katie, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
1628.
nothing that unusual to those of us who've been here a while.
oh, I thought it was the first time you're issuing a fortune-telling license. So I'm like, oh my goodness, what have
No,
we run into
I'm guessing
here?
Katie had one back in the day.
She didn't.
I don't think that we were issuing them at that time. I mean, I don't know.
I'm guessing the state license has existed for a long time because it's
Yes,
not
it
like this
has.
is a new
Yeah.
profession.
Looks like we're just developing it.
It's
Yeah.
so exciting. It's an old profession. It just got delegitimized in colonization.
Yep.
I'm so happy I became a history teacher. I had to take the test 3 times. There's a world history, U.S. history, which has 2 parts. If you have kids, you know they've gone through each part. And then there's economics and government. So I passed the world history first, got a splitting migraine, and then passed U.S. history, and then finally passed the.
Good for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
Okay, anybody else? Don?
In interest of brevity, I have some handouts that I could give, and then people could look at that in more detail if they wish to.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, which topic brings you here tonight, Don?
Well, it's a little bit of the Jepsonville, but also, seriously, what, I was before the board here on August 11th, and at that time, there was some discussion about finding out about what went on at the fall 2018 meeting regarding a hiring of a dredging consultant. And there was some disputed information at that time, and I was told that you'd get back to me with information. And I have not received any information on that. I was here again on August 11th. I'm sorry, on September 8th. And at that time, I asked Mr. Sullivan if the information in the harbor information form had been completed. And I haven't heard anything back on that. This has been a couple of months. So in the meantime, I again wrote to the Army Corps of Engineers to find out, since I heard nothing here, about whether the harbor information form had been completed. And like I gave you an update on the August 11th, I'll give you the update that, again, Carl Siligato, who is the project manager, said she would prefer that I go through the town. I had written to her because I said there seemed to be a breakdown in communication, and I wasn't getting any information. And she wrote back to me, she says, please note the USACE is still moving forward with the project, which is the dredging of the Wareham River in the harbor. And she talks about an eelgrass survey that was done in September. The eelgrass data still needs to be processed along with a report to follow, and the sampling and test results are not back for at least a couple of months. But she indicated primarily that the harbor information form still needs to be completed, which is a concern to me, because I looked at the form when it first came in. I received a copy of it, and it's not that complicated. It's just data about the harbor, which we should automatically have. But I know it's a busy season for Gary, but it seems to me that somebody should have been able to fill that in the meantime, because that's what's one of the things that's holding up the Army Corps of Engineers. And as you know, at the fall town meeting in 2018, I had put forth a citizen's petition that the town hire a dredging consultant to go forward, to put together a dredging plan and a path to go forward to accomplish the dredging outside of the Federal Navigational Channel. This is what Wellfleet did. They did it successfully, and all of that has been very successful for them. And we have more coastline than Wellfleet does, and we're sitting in the mud end. A couple of one of those attachments I put in was how we got onto this whole dredging thing, and that's when I was with the Army Corps of Engineers, with the Marine Resources Commission. And at that time, Gary came to us, and I attached his letter, February 18th, 2016. That's 4 years ago. And Mr. Bowen was at that meeting. And the concern was that the Coast Guard was pulling out the navigational aids in the Wareham River, and they were doing this in other places. Fortunately, through no action of us here at the town, they've only pulled one navigational aid. But the concern then that Gary had was that if the Coast Guard is able to get the Wareham River and harbor not to be a federal navigational channel, then we would be responsible for the dredging of the channel, which is a tremendous amount of money. as a taxpayer, I don't think that's the way to go. So I don't know, does anybody have any update? Why am I updating you guys when I'm the one that asked the questions?
Sure. The Harbor Information Plan was submitted with the application in 2018. We forwarded that back to Coral. There is a severe lack of clarity in the statement that the Harbor Information Plan is holding something up. She specifically says it is not.
Well, she said that in her previous, if you look at her email to me,
The most recent one, Mr. Jepson, I don't want to go on a back and forth.
you don't want to go to the one that she did this
I don't wanna
summer?
go back and forth. The Harbor Information form still needs to be completed and be ideal to have this by the end of the year if possible. Please note that the USACE is still moving forward with the project and it was recently able to conduct an eelgrass survey in September. The idea that somehow they have not been working on this, have been held up, is disingenuous. And I'm getting a little frustrated.
Well,
You've already called to apologize to me once when you had the
I
information.
apologized to
No,
you.
no, Mr. Jepson, I don't want to go back and forth. You've had your time, I'd like to have
Yeah,
mine.
I think,
Pardon me?
I have a point of order here.
Hold on a
Fine.
minute.
I have a question.
We allow the people to come up and express their opinion.
he did,
We don't discuss it until we have to go over it.
exactly.
We're going out of procedure.
Right.
We're asking to respond to something with nothing in advance. Every time we do this, it ends up with a problem. Mr. Jepson has the right to put in the white book what his problem is, and we'll respond to him within a week.
Okay.
I've done this every time this has happened.
Yep.
This is getting out of hand.
Yeah, we can't continue to have back and forth and back and forth
Right.
on this.
I would just ask one thing, if I could have that.
Already gone by.
Okay, I would just ask one thing. One of the things that I'm most curious about, or what I want to know, is where do we stand on hiring a dredging consultant? That was approved by the town meeting in 2018 in the fall. And if you could give me an update on that, that would be appreciated, Dart.
Fine, put it in the book. and
Can you,
we'll-
Yep.
Mr. Jepson,
Eric?
if you just write your questions in the book,
Get a response to
we
him?
will get a response to you, sir.
Send him
Okay.
an email response,
Right.
please.
Right there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, Don. Anyone else to speak to the board tonight? Good evening.
What's going on?
Hey, I'm good, thank you.
Nice to see you.
How's Mary Ann?
We'll see after I finish saying what I have to say if you're gonna.
Oh.
That's only a joke, only a joke,
I'll find you.
That was quite the warm-up there. Go ahead.
only a joke.
Could you identify yourself for the record?
My name's Jack Silver. I live in 8 Diners Way.
Thank you.
I'm the warden at Precinct 1 in the town hall. I'm here to ask why, I've gotten a couple of explanations, but why it has taken 5 weeks for my employees that work for me and the other poll workers to get paid. They haven't gotten paid. It's been 5 weeks.
Are you talking about since the September election?
Since the September election. Also, there was early voting from August 22nd to August 22nd to August 27th.
Yep, there was a week of it.
So it's actually been 5 weeks.
Okay, we
You
can
know,
look-
and I've gotten so many calls from not just my employees, but other poll workers, in town. And it's kind of frustrating. I mean, because there are some elderly who work it specifically because they want to work that because they might have some extra bill or something come up. So they're looking forward to getting paid
Okay,
quicker than 5 weeks.
We'll look,
We'll look into that.
We will look into that. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you,
Did you bring it to attention of anybody in administration?
Patrick, Mike,
What? My mic's right here.
is it?
Couldn't be any closer to my mouth.
good talking.
How are we doing now, Bob? Okay.
An explanation that was given to me was that it's in the hands of the town accountant. That's all I can tell you.
Okay, thank you.
We'll look,
Yeah. And the other thing is, we have early voting coming up, starts the 27th of this month. Runs for consecutive days, in the town hall. And one of the things I have to say that is really disappointing also is the condition and the smaller and smaller space that we get. We used to have just one precinct, now we have two. And so now we're being squeezed in the middle because usually when we go in, there's things underneath the balcony. But now they're on the side, and so it's just narrower and narrower. It's getting pretty difficult because there's a lot of noise, a lot of voices. And the closer and closer we get, sometimes it's difficult, you know, to really pay attention and to hear. And the voters get excited because we have the plexiglass, plus they have the mask, so it's difficult to hear their names, you know. So we have to ask them a few times. It's aggravating to them.
I think the clerk has expressed a wish to look at all the precincts in town and try to come up with something for a long-term plan here. As you know, Precinct 6 has bounced around.
Oh, yes.
And Precinct 3 that I'm in, I think I'm in my 5th location in the last 10 years, one way or another. Maybe the 5th change, I don't know the 5th location. So she is aware that, you know,
Over here,
she's trying to consolidate some things, but
would you say you're over in the town
Over
hall?
at Town Hall, yes, in the
Precinct 1.
auditorium.
Yeah,
Precinct 1.
yeah, I understand what you're saying.
get us,
One-
we'll
one
get through
last-
we'll get through this election, and then I think there's going to
Okay,
be a step back and take a look.
In all due respect, when it comes to the being paid, I'm getting a little bit frustrated of hearing every week, it'll be paid next week.
Yep.
The other thing is, like I say, we have early voting coming. I don't know who could be responsible, you know, because it's going to be every day for the early voting, to clean and make sure things are disinfected there. Maybe, I don't know what could happen in that regard. It'd be nice if, you know, it was disinfected, you know, towards the end of that particular day, because it's going to be many of people coming in for early voting. And I already know, talking with the Donna, the assistant town clerk, that there's been over 6,000, you know, early voting in
Yeah, requesting
mail-ins
ballots, yep.
that are going to be sent out. So it's going to be a very difficult and long evening.
It is.
So I just like to say to everybody out there, you know, make sure you vote.
Yep.
Vote early, you know, and just make sure you vote.
Yeah,
And I appreciate you giving me the time.
that's fine. We'll look into the pay issue.
I really appreciate that.
Okay.
It wasn't that bad, right?
No, not really.
Nice to see you.
You're welcome.
But I'm not the judge of that. That's waiting at home.
Thanks, Jack.
She's listening.
Yeah, I know she is. Hi, Mary Ann. Okay, anybody else
Mary Ann here?
comments for the board? No, he thinks she's watching, so I just said hello. Yeah. Okay, board comments. Alan?
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to take a few minutes. We've had discussions for back and forth at least 3 or 4 times for me about Verilife and parking. I believe the road commissioners on Monday had a discussion with a couple of the residents on Lower Main Street, and of course it goes into reprinted onto Facebook, and it's the usual, why did the town allow this, why this, whatever happened. I think I responded to a gentleman about 3 weeks ago with 6 different back and forths explaining everything from the beginning to the end. I've asked Sam Howes, who published this stuff on Facebook, to see if he could find the other posting to put back in again. But I'm going to go through it once more for the last time, and I apologize for the amount of time it's going to take. Everybody has to understand, when the voting was done and marijuana in the town of Wareham was approved, medical marijuana was the first thing on the menu. The zoning as to where pieces are located as far as medical, manufacturing, growing, and retail were all decided by the planning board. And this was done, you know, with the understanding that medical marijuana was going to be medical marijuana only, and they picked the institutional zone. There was never any information given out at all about medical eventually getting retail. This came out of the blue almost 8 months after the fact. If we had known that medical was also going to get retail, we would have had second thoughts about the location, but the problem is that the planning board would have to make that change, not the Board of Selectmen.
Well,
not
town meeting actually would approve these bylaws, and they're the ones who set the zones and everything else. They
I
went through
understand.
a planning board hearing in this instance, in all instances, the 2 times that town meeting has voted on marijuana and had articles before it. The planning board did endorse what went to town meeting.
I understand. I'm just saying that we don't bring it forth to town meeting. The planning board, as the legislative board, brings that article forward because it's a zoning article for location. Yes.
They don't put articles on the warrant automatically.
I'm just saying that's how it came through. It's a zoning article, and that's who proposes it. So this is how it started. So Verilife basically was locked into what they call the institutional zone, which is next to the hospital area with a certain distance. The way it was laid out, there only could be one medical location in that area because of distance. They were there. All of a sudden, they became basically a retail as well, and the volume just exponentially exploded. The other issue is, of course, parking on Lower Main Street is impacted by British Landing, which unfortunately has a pretty large capacity of people. And like a lot of places in Wareham, they don't have one car per apartment. You have two or three, so therefore they don't have enough room for what they have, and their parking basically goes on both sides of the road and narrows down that area. So there's very little parking at Lower Main Street before we even started. And the complaint on this past thing is that there's no parking for several owners that have properties that rent property, which means the property owners that have property there don't have sufficient parking off the street for themselves as well. And people have to remember, Lower Main Street is public parking, it's not private. We do have that over in Onset, we've locked off areas for the residents because there are the issues there. So if that's going to happen, that's fine, but as of right now, it's public parking. Verilife, basically is willing to move. They made a decision that they would split the business up if they could move. They found a location. Unfortunately, the location was too close to one of our retail stores that had been approved. So they are sitting, basically looking for possible other locations, but they're locked in. I mentioned to the planning board a couple different times that why don't you take medical marijuana and include it in the locations for retail? The reason being is we only have 3 retail licenses. So if you have more medical marijuana facilities in town, it doesn't mean you're going to have any more retail. And the bottom line is, I don't know anybody that's come to me and said they're against medical marijuana facilities. They're done for a reason, they're much lower volume, etc. The planning board has not decided to pick that up and actually move forward with it. But it has been requested, it hasn't happened. So the bottom line is, Verilife is trying. The parking issue, it is as it is. It's a problem because it was never expected to have a facility with the amount of volume in that location. Somewhere down the line, this hopefully will get rectified. But until the planning board makes a decision and changes the zoning and brings it forth to town meeting, there's nothing we can do as far as we go. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Anything else? Is that it?
That's enough.
Okay. Patrick? Judy?
No, thank you.
Jim?
I know what Selectman Slaving is talking about, and they could, there could be citizens parking, sticker required, minimal cost from a point down, in front of those homes all the way down to British Landing and whatnot. You want to park in the street, give us a $10 sticker or whatever, I don't care what you have. So there are ways to address this, whether the town and the commissions that oversee this wish to do so, that's up to them. And I would think that getting more people to park up towards the actual village area would be beneficial to the village businesses.
Hasn't proven that way.
Even if you get 1 out of 10 stopping in, but, and nothing against with Verilife being there. And, I stood up at town meeting and said I didn't think it was a good spot for recreational, and they could have split the license then. Town meeting and other people wanted to do otherwise. So, we ended up with what we got now. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, I don't have anything. No appointments, reappointments, or interviews, or licenses or permits.
We have a ratification of an offer for employment.
Yep,
It comes further down, I'm sorry.
yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, why don't we just go
Yeah.
right down the,
Yep.
Let's get the COVID-19 update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So it's something we need to really consider. Tomorrow is Wednesday when the new color codes come out. Since September 1st, we've had 25 new cases. 11 of those have, are doing better, but we have 14 active cases. We have a potential of moving out of the green with this. I was looking at their formula, and frankly, I couldn't play with it and make it work to see which way it was going. But just alone, it looked like in the last week we've had 9 new cases of COVID-19. So,
19.
what 9? No, 9. 9.
It's the single number 9.
So, again, there's a lot of folks that we've all gone through a lot over the last 7 months now. When you think about it, it's been 7 months, and it's not an immediate end in sight, and it's tough to keep on going the way we have. But we were speaking to somebody tonight that has COVID, and they're going through some really bad things. It's tough, and they don't wish it on anyone, and frankly said, I'll tell you what, it's changed everything I've thought about it. So many of us obviously have been lucky, have not been impacted by it. But, and there's, in the same household, you can have somebody that's asymptomatic and somebody that's in really tough shape. Nobody knows what you're going to get.
Yep.
So please be vigilant. Please understand that, as we continue on with the masks, with other things, none of it's punitive. We're not out of the woods. And, I wish us all safety. I think we all do. So.
Peter, just a comment.
Yep.
The way this runs now, if for some reason we go like up over 10 or 11% from the 8% that they're using as a formula, they do it over a 3-week rolling average. So if we're up for 1 week, that's just a warning, but we have 3 weeks, and after 3 weeks, if we are up, then school goes remote, everything changes for us. So it's something we do have to watch carefully.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we know there's a lot of concern. We just started school. My kids, their school started a few weeks ago and such. I know that Wareham just started now and has some of the shortened days. So, there's obviously some concern, and I appreciate there's a lot of hard work that's gone into the planning and a lot of things. I mean, for instance, Jack spoke about tonight about cleaning when we're having the basically the early voting and things we've already talked about. We've purchased more foggers and things like that. Today, you'll see some of our maintenance people walking through the building. They wiped the, sort of the heavily trafficked and touched areas and stuff like that. So it's nonstop.
What's, if I might ask, what's the procedure for checking to see that businesses, evenings and daytime are kind of adhering to rules and regulations? Do we have like anything in place officially, or?
It's mostly what comes as two ways. We get them from either if it's on off hours, if it's a Sunday evening or something. Obviously, our staff's not in there, but we'll get complaints from residents. We get plenty of those. The DLS also reaches out to us because they've received complaints. We've worked with them. Mr. Ethier and his staff has worked with them with several different businesses, because that sometimes familiarity breeds contempt, and they tell the local officials certain things, but when the state comes down with sort of some of their powers, it changes real quick. So I hope that answers.
No, just with the uptick and stuff, I think people have gotten pretty comfortable, and I know we've opened up, and then, you hear rumors down the halls and scuttlebutt, and so I'll talk with you later about
Yeah.
it, probably more appropriate.
And again, none of it's about being punitive, really. It's just to try and make sure safe behavior continues.
Correct.
Patrick?
Okay, so, I go into lots of the restaurants and places like that all the time. I don't know why that is, but I seem to end up in a restaurant a lot around here. Probably, well, maybe, I'm not,
Maybe there's a reason for that.
yeah, I'm a hungry kind of guy, So at any rate, most of them seem to be doing okay as far as following the rules, and some of them are doing an exceptional job at following the rules, and others, are kind of in the between. But one of the things that I would like to see us do, and this is a question for council, really, I want to ask this, is I'd like to see us put a condition on the licensing, on all the licenses that says that,
Wow, you've been served.
I don't know, Bob, I don't think that's going to help you much. I'm in the same place, same distance away. I don't know that the conditioning of a license is something I'm sure we can do. I mean, it's really up to council to give me the answer to that. But, we could say, okay, you gotta follow the rules. As far as mask wearing goes, it's a requirement. It's a requirement of the facility to make sure, and if not, you jeopardize your license. Your license can be in jeopardy. And it just gives another tool in the toolbox so that, it kind of puts the fear of God into some of these places that says, well, wait a minute, if they can take my license away. And by the way, I've already heard that the state has actually come down and taken some licenses away from people who haven't been following the rules already. They've actually already done that. So I'm assuming that since we control the licensing, other than the ABCC stuff for the liquor licenses, that maybe that's something we can do. What say you, council? Just another tool in the toolbox, that's all it's really about.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the Selectmen. Can you condition licenses? The answer is yes. The process will vary depending on the type of license that you wish to condition, but generally speaking, the answer is yes. There is another tool in your toolbox if you wish to use it with respect to liquor licenses. 204 CMR 2.05 subsection 2, I believe, makes it a violation for committing any disorder or illegality on a liquor license premises. If a liquor license premises is acting in a manner that violates the governor's orders, the Board of Health's orders, your own orders, that constitutes an illegality, in which case you could, after notice and hearing and proof of the illegality, take disciplinary action against the liquor license holder.
Yeah.
So that's something that you could do now if something presents itself. If there are other licenses that you issue, you certainly can condition them. You could do that at renewal time. You could hold a special hearing for all the licenses in each particular category and impose a condition that way. Holding a hearing, I think, is important just because you want the license holders to be aware of the condition and give them their opportunity to object to the imposition of the condition. But with those procedural due process requirements in place, the answer is yes.
Okay, so that's the answer. So we'll have to decide how we want to handle that.
Yeah, and
At
that,
some
this
point.
could run, we license any number of things here.
We do, yeah. Just about
Yep.
everybody has a license.
Fuel
at one time
storage,
from
for
the-
example,
Fuel,
which
food.
involves gas stations, anything to do with food.
Yeah, and there was actually a gas station, they don't wear masks, and according to them, they don't have to. But they do, but they don't.
Yeah,
And they go into people's cars and breathing in their windows and, whatever. And, especially when, if you're self-service, you probably don't have to worry so much. But when you are a service gas station, they come to your windows, you roll them down, hey, what do you want, No mask is not a good thing.
no.
And,
Don't stop.
like you say.
It's more than one gas station, too.
Yeah, well, it is, and
a few.
and it's not, and there's a few other places that have been not very good at taking care of their job. I mean, they just are, all right? For the majority, though, they're doing the right thing. They're all taking care of it. They've got masks, they've got rules, they got everything going, and they're doing a really great job at it, frankly. But there are some that just don't want to come, they're going to come kicking and screaming across the line, basically.
Yep.
And I'm just trying to give tools to the toolbox for these guys to be able to say something,
Yep,
you know?
yeah.
That's-
Impress upon them the seriousness of the situation.
Exactly.
I got to be honest with you, I think right now, Wareham's doing a hell of a lot better than Washington is when it comes to this virus. So
There's a little difference.
I think you can take, you can take your guidance from how your fellow citizens, how we're trying to conduct ourselves, how police officers are wearing masks and everything else. So, we're doing it the right way here, and please keep it up. And for those who don't want to follow along, as you can hear, the times may be a-changing.
Yeah.
So, thank you. Anything else with the COVID update? No? Refuse update.
You got anything there, Mr. Sullivan?
Yeah, I think I'll do, if you want to go over some stuff, I'll set up and run through a calculator and put together.
Can I just ask one quick question, you guys?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Real quick. It says Braintree almost consistently through this document.
Well, it's just another facility they have, I
Yeah.
believe.
Okay, so they're using, so are they transferring everything to Braintree?
They have
Oh.
they have a big facility up by the
Well, I know, I've
MBTA
been to
station
it.
in
I've actually
Braintree.
been in there.
Yeah.
But it just
But
seems.
if one doesn't work, they have the other, and I think that's what it's referencing.
Well, yeah, I mean, it
just got through half
references
of
it
it
through
today
the whole
myself.
document relevant to what they take, what they don't take, everything goes through.
It's
If
the
you-
same throughout.
Yeah,
There's
if
a
you
couple of
remember when it
scary
sh-
parts we need to talk about, but.
When this place shut down for a little while after the big fire, they had to haul the refuse somewhere, and that's their Braintree
Is
location.
that where they went? Okay.
Yeah, so,
They didn't go right to CMAS, huh?
well,
Seems shut down.
their location down there?
Yeah, for sorting, I guess
Yeah,
they have to
yeah.
go elsewhere, right? Is that what it is?
I think he's doing something different tonight, and I don't know if he's gonna get through the solid waste disposal agreement. At least, I'll let
Okay.
him talk about that.
All right, well,
So,
No, it's in there. What it does is I've just glanced through it, and wherever you see facility, it says facility, meaning the one up here in Rochester, or Braintree facility or Braintree facility. So they're obviously,
It was a little hinky
there's a few
before,
scary
too.
things in this stuff.
Pardon me? I thought we were going over and we read over licensing.
there is no license application pending before us. We have a discussion on the agenda to talk about, the interest that's been shown in procuring such a license, but we would actually have a hearing on the license once an application was received and we processed it. So that we're talking about fortune teller licensing, but there is no application before us at this time.
and that's E.
Oh, nobody talked about it but me. I don't understand. I'm so confused. I'm so sorry.
Well, first we have to set up a process by which to license you.
We have
And
to
then
get
once
there.
that happens, if we decide to do that, then you would submit an application to do your fortune telling, and then we would have you come in for a hearing and go over it from there. So this isn't that yet.
We're
This is
not
the
there.
first step, because we don't have any application in
nothing
our
in
records
place.
or a process to license you. So we've got to figure that out first.
I'd love to be a part of that. Could I be a part of that?
Well, you kind of can't, because we're the ones doing the licensing and you're the ones doing the applying for it. It's not, believe me, it's not going to be anything crazy on our end.
Oh, crazy is
So-
such a relative term. Can I give you the California?
Are we gonna
statutes
talk
on it?
about it?
Before I go, I didn't realize, I'm so sorry. I would have given it to you and just left if I had realized that that was the case. I'm so sorry to interrupt. I'm so sorry, because I know you've been working so hard and I'm so tired.
Yeah,
I
that,
have the
Are we gonna
California
discuss it or
statute
not?
Just to help out.
It's here on the agenda as E.
yeah, we are going to discuss it.
So,
But we're not going to
Oh.
discuss it with a prospective applicant, Jim.
just let her know.
Yeah, exactly. This will be, we are going to get down to it and discuss it.
Oh, I thought we had passed it already. We're on the COVID updates and I'm so.
No,
I'm so sorry.
Okay,
That's okay.
It's E on the agenda.
Yeah.
thank you.
And where are we on?
We're on,
We're on 9,
we're on 9B.
That's okay.
I'm so sorry to interrupt.
And, all right, go ahead.
It's all right.
You know, just, okay, we'll tell her later. Okay.
E.
Go ahead, Derek.
All right, so one of the things we've been trying to figure out is roughly just what these operations cost. And we have Basically, we've got two things. One is a combined curbside transfer station service that basically gives both options. And the other, we call it an opt-out calculator, which has curbside and transfer station, but allows people to transfer, to opt out, if you will, out of doing the curbside and do the transfer station only. So realistically, I just want to go through and let everybody kind of know what these numbers are. So the 8,200, that's the number of households. There's a total of over 10,000 housing units, but that's the household. So you'll see Section B, annual curbside costs, and that includes recycling and processing disposal. So what that is, that's the truck going by to pick up the trash, not the cost of throwing the trash away, but also picking up the recycling and the recycling disposal. So just the recycling pickup, disposal, just the trash pickup. You'll see where the actual refuse cost is a little further on. So you'll see B in there, and then C is the annual cost of, I'm still calling it the Carver, Marion, Wareham district, running the transfer station, no refuse or recycling costs. That's just roughly the cost to open up the doors to be ready. So when you combine the two of those, you'll see D. You get the total program costs without the curbside or transfer station refuse disposal and without transfer station recycling disposal. It's a little complicated, but I think it makes sense once you go through the whole thing. So we would be paying, you get billed back essentially from CMAS on the tonnage. So E is where you estimate how much tonnage and what the cost is. So the estimated curbside refuse only cost per household is about $120 annually. So that's 1.5 tons at $80 a ton. So does that make sense? That's what the average household is throwing. So if you take the number of the curbside at 8,200, multiply that by the 120, you get 984,000. You add section D, which is the 1.775, to section F, which is the 984, and you get the total curbside costs and operations only transfer station cost, $2,759,000. So now figuring out, how do you pay for this? Well, we know that there's no, I mean, realistically, when you look at that almost $3 million, that you take out of the general government budget, you take the police out, municipal maintenance out, that's roughly the entire rest of our general government budget when it comes down to it. So I think there was some idea that the town's absorbing it, and it's just, without an override, that's just not going to happen, right? I think we all understand that. So when trying to figure out a curbside cost per household, you decide section B, which is the annual curbside cost, divided by section A, the number of households, gives you $153. Then each household, we're given the estimated tonnage, the cost of $120. So that's $273. All right, does that make sense for everybody? So then we've got the transfer station households. This is if everybody did both. I just need everybody to remember. You've got 8,200. So 525,000 divided by 8,200 is $65. So the 273 or section I plus 65, which is section J. I plus J equals K, which is the $338. The $338 per household, so 338 times 8,200 equals $2,771,600. We would end with a small surplus of $12,600. That's if the world were a perfect place, we're calling this plan. Okay? So that allows for both options. Now we know some people wouldn't want to do the curbside. So we're trying an opt-out calculator. So that's this next screen. So in figuring here, you'll see the base is basically all the same things. There's just a little change in the middle for the calculation. So we'll start off with, what if 1,000 people opt out? Agreed?
Can I just ask a question? Are we going to get a hard copy of this for next week's discussion?
Sure.
Thank you.
So, 7,200 with 1,000 people opting out. Does it make sense? All right. So you change section A to the 7,200. So what happens? B and C stay constant. The only change in here is section F, because section F is the 7,200 times the 120. So you see a slight change, 2,639,000 from it was 2,759 before. So roughly a $120,000 change, if you will, maybe a little less. So now that 1.25 million is a constant. So we have less households being divided into this number. So you'll see the curbside cost goes up. So it goes to 174 from it was 153 before. So about $21. And all these have been rounded up just formulaically. So the 174 plus the 120, that gives you the new sticker price of $294. Then you see what we've got is the opt-out households, the 1,000. Well, there's a revenue adjustment there. So if you want a sticker only, you just want to do the transfer station, that's $125. How did I come up with that? Well, if you did 1,000 people just looking to run the transfers, do the transfer station at $525, well, their sticker would be about, what, $525, right? If only 1,000 people were going to do the transfer station. Does that make sense, everybody?
You only run it once a week, but yeah, go ahead.
So we need to figure out how to basically offset, because the curbside folks will still be subsidizing the whole transfer station.
Go ahead.
The transfer station up until about, I think it would be about $4,100 to $4,200, 4,100 transfer station only people. And I call it subsidizing because the curbside people have the access to the transfer station, but we know not 100% will use. Some may, a majority may, but some won't. So that term's probably not the best. I know it made one of you jump up on it, but so now if you do it that way, you'll see the new sticker cost is $350 if you're doing the curbside and the transfer station. If you're doing just transfer station, it's $125. Now what you need to know about the transfer station is that $125 is just your access. That's just to run it, just to open up the doors.
Just to get in the gate.
Just to get in the gate. So when you're throwing things away, it's going to have to be either a pay-as-you-throw, so a bag or a punch card, or even weighing it out. So if you figure, I know that's you figure if your bag, if a 33-gallon bag is roughly $2, that's what we've seen in some of the other communities, between $1.50 to $3. I said $2 on it. $2, and you're doing 2 bags every week, that's $104. So your cost would be about $229 when you think about it. So I think this is how we could do it to keep both running. We've talked to some other folks, and having a transfer station option with the curbside seems to be the ideal. It's a little bit more expensive, but I'm going to tell you, almost anybody that, if you've had a kid's birthday party, if you've had anything like that, there's times where you need to throw out some extra things, and this gives you probably the best way, the easiest access, and it's convenient. So, you can run this down to, 6,200. You'll see then the sticker goes up to 367. So that means 2,000 people have opted out. Right now, what do we think, Jim? We've got about 4,000 people that use the transfer station
From Wareham.
from Wareham, yeah.
It depends on the year. You know, when it was, what was it, 45, what's it, $40?
Yeah,
You know, it doesn't scare many people off.
all right.
And as the price goes up, yeah, the number will probably drop. You know, so I mean, and the nice thing about the calculator, Derek can just change the number up there and give you the projected costs of both. And of course, the transfer station would stay at the 125 plus the disposal fee.
All right.
And it's a convenience center if you're gonna look at disposing of other items. Of course, that could be in a contract with the curbside collection, which is, still being worked out.
Yeah.
But I think it's a nice tool he created, and I thank him for that. And I think, you know what, in a short period of time, we've been working on this, like, actually working on it. I think it's a good step forward. How do we get people to buy into it? How do we, can you do it as a requirement? We have to do it by town meeting vote and get 2/3 of the vote to approve a process. Those are my questions. I did read what you gave me, so that's why I
Yeah,
was coming up with that. I don't know.
so it's trying, you've got the separate bylaw. What you were sent today is just the CMAS agreement.
Oh,
That,
I'm not even
yeah,
talking.
that just allows them to take our trash. That isn't the curbside or anything like that.
Okay,
so.
yeah, okay, I understand as I was reading this. The problem is, there's a couple of issues that arise as I look through this. One is, there's no white goods, no metal collection, no anything, which, by the way, the last time I was in Rochester, they eliminated the metal collection, so there's no
would-
place
yeah.
to
Yeah,
throw metal anymore.
CMAS wouldn't do that. This has,
Nothing to
that's
do with
just, yep, that has nothing to do with it. They wouldn't be doing that, because they only take trash. They did the white goods as part of the agreement with CMW.
Okay,
So-
I agree, but
Right.
that
Well-
means, for what we're expending up here,
Yeah.
there's no white goods, there's no collection of metal products or anything like that.
Yes and no. There's, that, if you're going to be doing those collections, we have the staff to do it. You can set those up, and just like anywhere else, white goods, if you're doing something, maybe it's $20 for a certain item. So this wouldn't be, most of the other places will charge you per item, whatever it's gonna be.
Okay, you know what I'm worried about, right? Is I'm worried about finding them all through the woods.
Right.
Well,
And on the side of the road,
Right.
and everywhere else, because,
But that will
They
not,
can't
that
get rid
agreement
of it.
has nothing to do with white goods, anything like
that
that.
has to
well,
do,
just as an exception, they don't collect it, they only collect trash. So the only numbers that you're using up there are the numbers from here,
From there, from disposing, the $80.
disposal
The
number.
recycling that's being picked up curbside is picked up by, we haven't settled on whom yet, so I'm not gonna use a name,
yeah.
but
But are you using a different number for that?
we're using the number that, from one of the bids.
Okay.
Those will be all
Well,
add-ons.
yeah,
For-
I
for-
understand you guys
No,
have
no, for
answers,
the
and that's
white
why
goods
I'm
and
asking.
everything else.
One at a
the
time,
add-ons.
one at a time.
I know, that's why I'm asking the question, is because, I know that
Yeah.
it doesn't, it makes sense to me.
All right,
You know what I'm saying? Because there's also, the other thing that's in here is if they collect something, or you collect something, whether at the curb or in the facility, and it gets up to their facility, wherever it is, and they put it out on the ground and they sort it out, and it's,
A
and
no-no.
it's the wrong, or it's something that deserves other costs, they're gonna charge the town back.
yep,
So, that could be costly if the people in the facility are not doing their job, and the guys at the curbside aren't doing the job.
and our residents
And just
aren't
so
doing
you
their
know,
job. That's coming from our residents,
well,
so
just,
they're not doing their job too.
well, that's true, but the residents, right now, you know what's going on at that facility right now, right? Does everybody know what's going on up there? I mean, you can put anything and
Right.
everything and whatever, and that's not gonna happen anymore.
Right.
And all I'm saying is that, you know, that could be an additional cost down the road if things are being thrown or things are ignored or whatever happens, and they charge you back a number. You might be looking at the wrong numbers. I mean, it might be, you know what I'm saying? Those are the two things that glare in here for me,
Yep.
okay? I'm just saying.
I don't know how far you want to go out to explain the process, or you want to just leave it until you're done with
negotiations
on curbside.
Well, we can, you know,
I don't, that's why
it's tough because we haven't settled on a vendor because we haven't settled on which direction we're going. And we're in this big circular sort of thing.
what you're discussing or bringing to light is part of the discussion that he and Mike Scipione are having on how that issue would be resolved. So I can't say anything because he's still,
And there's a couple different things. And the level of service that we will provide is based on what people are willing to pay.
Obviously.
And sometimes that gets good, people don't believe that, if you will. And
the
one of
obvious,
it, so the reason why I say that is, if we want to do a hazardous waste day, hazardous waste, what did it cost, Jim?
It's
40
outside of
grand
this.
or something?
yeah, it would, for the two towns when we did it last time, 30 to 40 grand.
So
It's
you-
like $3,000 just for the setup and then the
Yeah.
disposal fee of everything. So that would be in addition to.
Yeah.
It's not covered under these funds.
So-
A lot of times towns charge. If you want to get rid of X amount of stuff, you got to pay so much.
Or
Yeah.
you can add $5 into that right now, into all the categories.
See, but that's what gets scary, because then all of a sudden they put the stuff down the drain, or they do whatever, and then you're cleaning it up at the plant, or they throw it in the woods. This is what gets scary.
Right.
Somewhere along the line, that right now, I mean, they can pretty much throw anything, anywhere, anytime they want. I mean, they could go with, you know, you could throw it and put it in a plastic bag and throw it in there, nobody's gonna say anything. And we don't get charged back for it at this point, but we will get charged back for it. And it could be considerable, especially if there's hazardous materials in there. I mean, you take a container, what do you call it, a gas container, right? I mean, here you can't, basically, you know, gas containers now, if you really take them to a facility, you have to take the valve out and shear it in half. Otherwise, they won't take it. If you go to a, you know, a place like I go where I have to pay to get rid of stuff, it's gotta be sheared in half, they won't take it. You know, so there's rules that you have to follow, basically, which they don't, because they'll stick it in a bag and throw it in there, and there it goes, and it's gone.
Propane tank?
Huh?
Propane tank?
Yeah, propane tanks, yeah.
We charge for those and then we get money for them.
Right, but ultimately,
You occasionally hear the big boom over at CMAS,
Yeah.
and that's been,
so you know, what I'm saying is that there's a lot of these things, and apparently you had not done negotiating in this, and that's fine.
Right.
But it's just questions I have that I think are going to be glaring for you as you go along through this process. And look, the town can't afford to, you know, do this and pay for it. It's impossible. Yet, we can't afford to be charged back for these kinds of products, because then it'll wreck the numbers by the end of the year, and your $12,000 whatever will become a $40,000 deficit, you know, which could be glaring as well. So, and if they start to take the hazardous waste now that we collect every once in a while right now, and they take it over and they just give it to you and off they go, and now they take the pills and what they carry and they pour them down the drain or the paint and they get rid of them, and, you know, now we're trying to treat them at the sewer treatment plant or wherever, you know, whatever, into the ground, whatever's happening. So those are the kinds of things that I think as this process goes
We have
on.
to do something.
Yeah, oh, no, there's no question.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say not to
No,
do
no,
this,
no.
don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to say we need to look at all the variables so that we make sure that we're not out in the woods picking up stuff and we're not doing whatever. And we are anyway, but at least we're not what it could be.
It has
That's
to be
all.
built into the costing, I think.
Exactly, you gotta build it in somehow,
We're on
that
it.
you have a cushion, you know, something.
You're on it?
So,
And $12,000
Jim's
ain't
on it,
gonna,
we're all set.
and 12,000 is probably not gonna cut it.
so again, and this is,
That
at
goes
the
on
end of
now.
the day, this is not to lecture my bosses, it's a policy matter.
Correct.
Right? What I have proposed here, and I'll say from I on this, is we do the combined here, to give the most amount of services to the town. By spreading it across so many people, we can give both the curbside and the transfer station. And my estimate on the most, what I believe is the most conservative is 2,000 opt-outs right now, is what you're looking at. We need to figure to be able to give the residents an estimated price. If we want to do the annual hazardous waste, right now, we'll bring it up to 375.
What's it
370
at 8,200 homes? What was it, 266?
at the 82, if you did just the transfer station,
273?
with not allowing anybody opting out. So if you did just curbside, let's say there was no transfer station whatsoever, you're looking at $273.
Now, if you add the transfer station too, for 8,200 homes, what's the total, 338?
338, which is,
What's the average home paying now here in the town of Wareham?
560 something, wasn't it?
well, it's in the 400s, then moving to the 550, 560 range with this, now that they're paying per ton. Yeah, paying the disposal cost. That is, my house, I pay $225 for curbside, which includes recycling, but I pay by bag. And my family's throwing about 4 or 5 bags, which works out to about $10 a week for us. So that's $520 on top of the $220 that we
Right.
pay. So this right here, and I mean, even if you did the curbside, and then, just so you know, the recycling's bi-weekly, all right? That's what Beal needs said, the recycling's bi-weekly, trash weekly, recycling bi-weekly on the curbside. But if you do this right here, and even if you did an extra bag a week, you'd be at $438. You can really do whatever you want on it.
Right, and I think most of them talk about, what is it, 65-gallon totes?
The 64-gallon totes and the 96 for the recycling.
And
because-
anything over and above that is an additional cost to the individual.
Right.
At least that's part of the discussion.
Right, if you wanted to get an extra barrel, you'd figure out a cost, maybe it's $60 annually even to do an extra barrel, plus the cost of the barrel. But we need to, folks, it's not, I'm not pushing something down your throat. I don't think any of us are, and we need to move quickly at
Oh, yeah, we gotta
at
move.
the end here, and we have an idea of what the costs we're facing. And my recommendation would be to the combined. I think it gives the most service to the community with the least cost.
We set a deadline of deciding this by the end of the month, and I don't know how much more we need to hear at this point. Judy?
I'd like an opportunity, with all due respect, to actually look at the numbers in hard copy in front of my little eyes that need glasses.
The problem is that what he's showing you here is a formula.
I understand that.
Give you something.
And he said he was going to give something, so I would be prepared next week, along with this document, which we got, 4 hours ago, and as quick a reader as I am, I'm not ready to go anywhere near this one yet.
No, that one's just, honestly, that one is an as-is. This is what, so
It doesn't
it was
matter.
no, I'm just going,
Yeah.
so it's what
This
was
is what
negotiated.
Covant is willing to do.
Right.
Right.
That's what they do with their other plan, and they're not gonna change.
But in
No.
order for me to make a reasoned decision, I must have the information in front of me, not just an hour before you want me to make a decision.
Problem with that.
I didn't ask for that to be decided.
No, I know you didn't.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that I
I was
would be,
reminding the board that we said we were going to get this done by the end of the month. So
well, if we do it next week, that's by the end of the
Right.
month.
Yeah.
So frankly, what I've asked is, that's curbside, that's transfer station.
Right.
Unless CMW, well, so that has nothing to do with the path we're going forward. It's there either way.
I
But
understand
what
that.
we need to know is this. We've kind of said, hey, we're going to go either way, But, you know, Jim, I appreciate it, worked with me. I asked him a few questions to look at some things, and he helped me clean it up, because just because something makes sense to me doesn't mean it makes sense to everyone else when I see the same numbers each and every day. So,
And it all depends on the opt-outs.
and it depends
how
on
it's
the,
presented to it, if we do it at town meeting, or however we want it, what we have to do to get to that point.
so Selectman Whiteside, what I would say is I'll give you the 8,200 copy, and then I'll do a 7,200, 6,200, and 5,200.
That would
And I
be
think, does
very
that
helpful.
suffice? Do you-
Yes, that would be
okay,
very helpful. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to put it on for next week. Discussion and possible vote to select refuse disposal option.
No, it should be and vote, not possible vote, and vote, because we got to vote.
Well, we have to do it by the end of the month. Maybe we
Gotta
might not be
happen. Yeah.
prepared, so that's why.
Let's vote on it and get it moving.
Well,
Then
it'll be available if somebody wants to make a
Then the
motion.
negotiation for these other issues have to be taken in, that I brought up, I think need to be
Yeah.
taken into
Yeah.
account when you finally settle on all this stuff.
Yep.
Then there was the bylaw that needs a lot of work that was handed out to the board, so any input back would be helpful, because I think voting on this will help us design that,
Right.
if it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the input that Mr. Sullivan received tonight, saying you made a motion to have him and Mike Scipione negotiate the contract,
Yep.
solidifies what I believe he was doing anyhow, just knowing from what the contracts came in and what was expressed during that point of time. The contract with Covanta is a separate item from the curbside. It's just what they're willing to charge us per ton.
Yeah.
It's pretty much a boilerplate, and so, that's all.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
thank
that's
you.
the similar one that Marion just signed, and I know they had gotten some concessions that weren't originally allowed, so it's kind of better than what some of the other communities, so we appreciate them doing the work for us.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Okay, let's see. Next up, vote to authorize Veterans Day proclamation.
Move to authorize the writing of a Veterans Day proclamation for November 11th of this year.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion for the proclamation by Judy, seconded by Patrick. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right,
Opposed, abstained, 500. Next up, vote to ratify hiring of Derek Machado, paramedic at Wareham EMS.
I'll make a motion to ratify the conditional offer to Derek Machado for a position of paramedic at Wareham EMS.
Second.
Okay, motion to ratify hiring by Judy, seconded by Patrick. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained,
I'm
500.
gonna abstain. I didn't have the
Oh,
opportunity to
you're
go
gonna
over
abstain
there
for
and
that
look
one?
at it, so
Okay,
I don't feel secure in making a vote one way or the other.
okay, that's
Thank
fine.
you.
401 on that one. Here we go. Discuss fortune teller licensing under General Laws, Chapter 140, Section 185, and Chapter 266, Section 75. Judy?
Yes. Last week, an individual called into the office and asked how to be licensed to be a fortune teller. And the office staff said that they didn't know the answer to that question and asked me, and I said, I don't think we have one of those. So I went and pulled up copies of the law, which I've given you, and I also gave you copies of the application for the city of Boston, which, why reinvent the wheel, okay? So I think we have two things in front of us. One is whether we do want to license them or not, and then do you want to let me have at it by messing around with other cities' applications, which seem, there's several that I looked at, but this was sort of the most comprehensive.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing that I didn't have any recommendation on would be whatever the fee would be.
Well, the law says you can charge $2 or up to 50.
50, yeah.
So should we, Mr. Chairman, should we check with town council?
Yeah, might be a good idea.
Do you,
Mr. Chairman, through you to the board, I have a few comments on the proposed license. Number one, the Board of Selectmen doesn't have to do anything to actually create the possibility of licensing. It's in the statute by virtue of Chapter 140, Section 185I. The other statute that was referenced is a criminal statute that doesn't pertain to the licensing itself. That's the first thing. The second thing is that Section 185I provides that the license fee is $2 unless town meeting has set a higher fee, which cannot be higher than $50. So unless we have a vote on the books setting an amount higher than $2, pull out your Thomas Jefferson and you've paid up. In case anybody didn't know, that's the guy on the $2 bill. You never see him.
And the nickel, I was wondering whether you were
Well,
suggesting bringing
yeah,
the nickels with you.
Yeah, bring in 40 of
Where it can
those.
be- Where it can happen. It's not in our bylaws.
no, but
It doesn't have to be.
So it can be anywhere.
no, if you look
It's a
at
business.
this application form, there's a fairly comprehensive set of things that have to be gone through, and includes neighbors being notified by certified mail or by service, so that they have the opportunity to object or to say yes.
So this is done by public hearing then?
Well, no.
Well, that's my question.
No.
Yeah,
It's starting to sound like a public
No.
hearing process.
the statute does not set a hearing process, unlike, for example, the liquor licensing statutes that require notice to abutters and so forth. Whatever the city of Boston has come up with, they've come up with on their own. You're not obliged to do any of that.
May not be authorized to do some of that.
And depending on what they have in there, you may not be authorized to do it. Which brings me to the next point that I'd like to make about fortune teller licensing. Section 185I, as it is written, is, in my opinion, and you're not bound by my opinion, but I'm going to offer my opinion, is unconstitutional. Specifically, it says, said license shall be granted only to applicants who have resided continuously in the city or town in which the license is sought for at least 12 months immediately preceding the date of the application. In my opinion, and I know in the opinion of at least one or two courts outside of our jurisdiction, that provision would be considered to be an anti-Romany provision whose purpose is to exclude Romany persons from being able to pursue the avocation of fortune telling. That's because traditionally the Romany lifestyle had been one that was transient. And so where you have something which has, I think, a plainly discriminatory purpose, I think it's very likely that were this to be litigated in federal court, the federal court would find that that particular provision of the statute is unconstitutional. Moreover, there are cases, from other jurisdictions that have held that fortune telling, both the giving of the fortune and the receipt of the fortune, are protected speech under the First Amendment and presumably also under Article 16 of the state constitution. In situations where you're dealing with protected speech, the burden of proof in denying a license is on the government to establish why the grant or why the restriction on the speech should be curtailed. And usually that sort of restriction is only upheld for public health or safety reasons, and the burden of proof is on the government to show what those problems might be. It's not enough just simply to say, oh, well, this would impair public health, welfare, or safety. That's not enough. You'd have to have somebody sitting there in a chair testifying to you under oath that this would create some sort of problem. And I have to say that it's a rare occasion when freedom of speech is subject to that type of restriction. Even some of the COVID laws now are coming under some forms of First Amendment attack. So I think that you can apply the statute except for that provision.
Yep.
I think you have to keep in mind that you're dealing with what has been deemed in some jurisdictions protected free speech. Whatever the city of Boston has done, I'm not sure I'd go with it. And that's my opinion. Thank you.
Okay. Jim?
So you just classify it as a particular type of a business, and wherever that business is allowed to operate under zoning bylaw, would that be where the individual could operate a business of that type?
Well, with your permission, Mr. Chairman, if it's fortune telling if it's being conducted as a business, and presumably it would be because this is talking about telling fortunes for money, so that's a business. It could be conducted wherever, assuming a license was granted, it could be conducted wherever business activities of that type are allowed under the zoning bylaws, either as a primary business or, I haven't studied the zoning bylaw on this question, but perhaps even under a home occupation or ancillary business activity.
Thank you.
I just would have a suggestion that if the board would choose to proceed with this, I can certainly work with town council. There is in the city of Boston, there's no residency requirement at all. There's a query request, which I'm guessing would not be contrary to the law, and instructions about just filling out personal information, and then a listing of the types of services with the fees that might be charged.
Well, why don't you two come up with a draft application and we can vote on it next week?
Yeah,
That's okay by me.
Yeah.
I don't know how many other businesses require, a private business require quarries.
Yeah, I'm not so,
In town, so I would,
I think that's a little burdensome.
and I don't know, I'd have to,
I
ask.
mean, we don't require it for any number of types of businesses. Typically, a lot of the quarries are done in circumstances where people have a lot of contact with children, to protect,
In
against
hiring.
predators and things like that. Internal hiring, people can do it, but, I mean, we don't check and see what people have for criminal records with most private companies or most private businesses.
And I think the town, the Elks, through rental, sponsored spiritual days or weekends for many years. This is probably the first year they haven't, because, spirituals would come in and, because of the COVID. I don't know if we ever did anything at that point in time,
No. There's 3 to 5 every year.
3 to 5.
Yeah.
Not only the
Never
Elks,
licensed them or required anything, did we?
a couple of the churches also do it besides the Elks. And also the Historical Society did one. No license required, no nothing.
So,
Thank you.
okay, we good?
I will work with thank you.
Okay, let me know when you're ready to come back on it.
Next week.
Good.
It'll be next week,
Yep,
so that the applicant is not held up any further than she's been held up.
Oh, no, you all are wonderful, thank you, and I appreciate that, and that clarification. Do I have any?
We will if you could leave did you leave your name and your contact information with the office when you called in?
No.
Okay, could you put it on a piece of paper for me and just put it in the book here? Thank you.
The board
And then we
have
will
to
get
vote on
back
any-
to you, letting you know where
Yeah.
where the form is and what you need to do.
Yeah, we will act as a, if we adopt this
The
process,
board
we
will-
will be the licensing authority for fortune tellers.
And I'm an adoptee, so I'm sharing a whole new spin on adoption. It's,
doesn't
and the transient life of Romani, we're still being subjugated and we're fleeing, and so it's very complicated. So thank you so much for hearing me out and representing, because I didn't bring anybody with me. You all have each other, and thank you for being here for me today. That was,
So just,
touched my heart.
Mrs. Burbank, just your name and either an email or a telephone number would be fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, vote on the 2020 state election warrant.
We have a warrant for the 2020 state election.
Do you want me to speed read it into the
Yeah, I
record?
was just going to say, how about
Love
Fast
doing
Lips
that
gets
anyway.
to do this?
You love doing that.
Saves time.
It does.
Allows you guys to talk more.
You just love doing it.
Okay, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, William Francis Galvin, Secretary of the Commonwealth, warrant for 2020 state elections, Plymouth Shire Town, to the constables of the city town of Wareham. Greetings in the name of the Commonwealth. You're hereby required to notify and warn the inhabitants of said town who are qualified to vote in elections to vote at precincts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1 and 6, Town Hall Auditorium, 54 Main Street, 2 and 3, Hammond School, 13 Highland Ave, 4 and 5, 745 Main Street. These are the polling locations. On Tuesday, the 3rd day of November 2020, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. for the following purpose: to cast their votes in the state election for the candidates for the following offices: electors of President and Vice President for these United States, Senator in Congress for this Commonwealth, Representative in Congress, 9th District, Counselor, 1st District, Senator in General Court, 1st Plymouth and Bristol District, Representative in General Court, 2nd Plymouth District, Register of Probate, Plymouth County, County Commissioner, Plymouth County, County Treasurer, Plymouth County, School Committee, Upper Cape Cod District. Question 1, law proposed by initiative petition. It asks the question, do you approve of a law summarized below on which no vote was taken by the Senate or the House of Representatives on or before May 5th, 2020? Here is the summary. This proposed law would require that motor vehicle owners and independent repair facilities be provided with expanded access to mechanical data related to vehicle maintenance and repair. Starting with model year 2022, the proposed law would require manufacturers of vehicles sold in Massachusetts to equip any such vehicles that use telematic systems that collect and wirelessly transmit mechanical data to a remote server with a standardized open access data platform. Owners of motor vehicles with telematic systems would get access to mechanical data through a mobile device application. With vehicle owner authorization, independent repair facilities, those not affiliated with a manufacturer, and independent dealerships would be able to retrieve mechanical data from and send comments to the vehicle for repair, maintenance, and diagnostic testing. Under the proposed law, manufacturers would not be allowed to require authorization before owners or repair facilities could access mechanical data stored in a motor vehicle's onboard diagnostic system, except through an authorization process standardized across all makes and models and administered by an entity unaffiliated with the manufacturer. The proposed law would require the Attorney General to prepare a notice for prospective motor vehicle owners and lessees explaining telematic systems and the proposed law's requirements concerning access to the vehicle's mechanical data. Under the proposed law, dealers would have to provide prospective owners with, and prospective owners would have to acknowledge receipt of, the notice before buying or leasing a vehicle. Failure to comply with these notice requirements would subject motor vehicle dealers to sanctions by the applicable licensing authority. Motor vehicle owners and independent repair facilities could enforce this law through state consumer protection laws and recover civil penalties of the greater of treble damages or $10,000 per violation. A yes vote would provide motor vehicle owners and independent repair facilities with expanded access to wirelessly transmitted mechanical data related to their vehicles' maintenance and repair. A no vote would make no change in the law governing access to vehicles' wirelessly transmitted mechanical data. Question 2, law proposed by initiative petition. The question is, do you approve of a law summarized below on which no vote was taken by the Senate or the House of Representatives on or before May 5th, 2020? Summary of the law. This proposed law would implement a voting system known as, quote, ranked choice voting, unquote, in which voters rank one or more candidates by order of preference. Ranked choice voting would be used in primary and general elections for all Massachusetts state offices, state legislative offices, federal congressional offices, and certain other offices beginning in 2022. Ranked choice voting would not be used in elections for president, county commissioner, or regional school district committee member. Under the proposed law, votes would be counted in a series of rounds. If in the first round, if one candidate received more than 50% of the first place votes, that candidate would be declared the winner and no other rounds would be necessary. If no candidate received more than 50% of the first place votes, then the candidate or candidates who received the fewest first place votes would be eliminated, and in the next round, each vote for an eliminated candidate would instead be counted towards the next highest ranked candidate on that voter's ballot. Depending on the number of candidates, additional rounds of counting could occur, with the last place candidate or candidates in each round being eliminated, and the votes for an eliminated candidate going to the voter's next choice out of the remaining candidates. I'm already confused. A tie for last place in any round would be broken by comparing the tied candidate's support in earlier rounds. Ultimately, the candidate who was, out of the remaining candidates, the preference of a majority of voters would be declared the winner. Ranked choice voting would Ranked choice voting would be used only in races where a single candidate is to be declared the winner and not in races where more than one person is to be elected. Under the proposed law, if no candidate received more than 50% of first place votes in the first round, the rounds of ballot counting necessary for ranked choice voting would be conducted at a central tabulation facility. At the facility, voters' rankings would be entered into a computer, which would then be used to calculate the results of each round of the counting process. The proposed law provides that candidates in a statewide or a district election would have at least 3 days to request a recount. The Secretary of State would be required to issue regulations to implement the proposed law and conduct a voter education campaign about the ranked choice voting process. The proposed law would take effect on January 1st, 2022. A yes vote would create a system of ranked choice voting in which voters would have the option to rank candidates in order of preference, and votes would be counted in rounds, eliminating candidates with the lowest votes until one candidate has received a majority. A no vote would make no change in the laws governing voting and how votes are counted. Hereof fail not, and make return of this warrant with your doings thereon at the time and place of said voting, given under our hands this 6th day of October, 2020. Wareham Board of Selectmen, Peter Titlebaum, Judith Whiteside, Alan Slavin, Patrick Tropiano, Jim Manise.
Second.
So moved. Go ahead.
Well, he's just moved it. I'm saying second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Just a
No.
quick question, how come we don't state the common name of the building? It was at 715 Main Street?
Oh, it's 7045 Main Street.
But what, is there a name to that building, we just don't use that, or?
Well, the state law requires us to use the street address, I believe, at
So when
minimum.
we
And
say
if we want
Hammond
to, if we want to use a locator like
No,
the Elks or,
it was just
yeah.
a question.
Yep,
But we said Hammond School,
yep.
we said Town Hall, but we didn't identify.
Yeah, they didn't say the Redmond.
That's an identifiable building to most people who live in town, I would think, if it's where I believe it is.
Well, we can mark it up and put in Redmond Hall there. Actually, that would make it consistent with the other two.
Thank you, I'd like to do that. Anybody have a problem with that, or is that like illegal?
No, just did it.
Thank you.
It's our warrant until we vote on it, right? Any other races we want to add on here while we're at it? No? Okay.
I'm good, I just,
Going once, going twice, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. Thank you.
I
Next
just
up,
have a question for you, Mr. Titlebaum.
yeah.
Should we have voted to, we discussed fortune-telling licenses. Should we vote to prepare to issue them?
No, we
Do-
don't have to.
We don't have to?
No, we don't have to do that.
Okay.
Because we're authorized under state law. We are the licensing authority for fortune
Okay.
tellers. So it's already authorized. The only thing next week is we're just going to be voting
Just
on your
gonna-
application,
yeah.
and then you can
Okay.
send it out to
I just
this
wanted,
young lady, and we can go.
to clarify that. Oh, God.
Which, fortune telling or the election?
it's a long night.
Rich's
Terrible.
monthly pay.
I was
Yeah, no
awful.
kidding.
Just saying that.
All righty, back to work here. So we got that done. Accept donation to the, can we get a motion for the generous donation?
Yes, I move that the town accept the $50 donation to the Wareham Free Library on behalf of the Bay Area senior cyclists in memory of Lois Fountain.
Second, just so information, Lois is very instrumental in the Friends of the Bike Path, the beginning there, when they existed. So it was the bike path was something that's very important to her. That's why I came from that group.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
abstained,
That's
500.
my signature.
Okay, continued discussion and votes to recommend warrant articles.
Can I just make a suggestion that, that the petitioner for the NIPS one be brought forward first so she can go home and
Yep,
kick more dogs?
Well, poor Ken. Ken's sitting back there.
kick more
too.
service dogs.
What's Ken up to?
Very funny. They're full of jokes.
Yeah,
Aren't we,
I
though?
thought she was just visiting. She's here for
No, she-
business.
she's here for business, so tell us about nip bottles.
Okay, well, the citizens petition article is to see if the town will vote to ban the sale of nip bottles in the town of Wareham.
Okay,
We've been at this cleanup for a long time, and I just think it's unacceptable that we still just haven't tried to do anything about it. The town of Chelsea has done it successfully. I guess things are still pending on the, whether or not they're going to drop that at some point, but the news from Chelsea is that they've seen nothing but good things happen from this. Aside from just the litter issue, there's been like a 66% decrease in public drunkenness, calls from the police station. There's been a lot of collateral good that has come from this. Nips are by far the biggest thing that we clean up. It's just everywhere.
Cigarette butts.
Oh yeah, there's so many of those we can't, those, your eyes don't even focus in on them anymore. But the nip bottles, the recycling programs, blah, blah, blah. You can't pick up a nip bottle that's been run over by a car, smashed over with a snowplow and in a bank all winter, and then recycle it. It's just unrecyclable. It's just at the point, we've had the bottle bill, which has just seemed to go nowhere forever. I feel like there's been several bottle bills that have come up, trying to put a redemption of 5 cents, which is not even anything anymore. It's never been updated. 5 cents might have been a big deal in 1980, but unless they're going to make the deposit on them 25 cents or 50 cents, it's
it's not worth foraging.
it's useless.
Yep.
So this is just, sort of a esprit de corps to everyone that goes out there to try and pick up trash, that we're at least trying still to do something about this.
Yep. Alan?
Just to back up, as I mentioned, I think it was last week, the Chelsea one was challenged at the ABCC, and the ABCC ruled in favor of Chelsea. Falmouth took the same basic tact, except made the law from a town bylaw, and as of right now, that also has gone through. There's 4 communities in the Cape that are about to go ahead and do something besides Wareham. So there's no reason for this not to go forward and see what happens. The Attorney General has not expressed an opinion one way or the other, but I doubt very much they're going to go against it at this point. Boston has had over a year now a law which was not worked for us, because Boston's law was basically any new license would have a restriction of no nips, which would have done no good for the town of Wareham, since we have no new licenses. And it wouldn't be fair if we had, say, 1 or 2, and then we had 18 or so that still could sell nips. It would be non-productive.
Yeah, the only reservation, I don't have any reservation about trying this. I do have a concern that the Attorney General, if the Attorney General doesn't weigh in, I could see the beverage industry trying to get it overturned. Because they would, if I were their lawyer, I'd say, well, the state is the ones who regulate, alcohol, the containers and so on and so forth, and the town overstepped its bounds. But until that day comes, let's make it illegal if we can.
Yeah, well, the state has basically said they are not going to overrule a municipality's law.
Plastic bags, too?
Fireballs
No.
too.
Fireball's been number 1 for how
Not
many
yet.
years now?
Oh, yeah.
That's next.
That's the reigning champion.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the hot drink this week. Just a comment for Jim, the state has a statewide plastic ban bag bill pending through. Boston had theirs held up.
I know.
So we're getting close to that. So I don't think there's any sense in Wareham trying it, because the state will
just-
basically overrule us anyways with it.
Well, it's one thing to have it pending, it's another thing to have it enacted, so doesn't mean you can't do something beforehand, and then if the state makes a ruling or a law, it would supersede it, then so be it. But at least you make that choice, or you attempt to do something that hopefully is for the better. Whether it's a plastic bag or nip bottles. And, you know, talking to the nip bottles, yeah, it's a convenience for people. It's a price point for people. Other towns, you know, everybody around here is just they're gonna pick up business. And for me, I mean, I have about 170 feet on Cranberry Highway. My bigger thing, cups and fast foods, occasional nip bottle, but other places, depending how far from the location of purchase, I mean, the nip bottles is definitely an issue.
A lot of them are found that aren't going out car windows, they're just being dropped by people who hang around, and that's all they do all day long is sit around and drink nip bottles.
And you can't have them in your car. I mean,
We have
you
some,
can
we have
have
some
But they
people like
do.
that, so.
They do.
That's right, they buy them individually, or they buy them in sleeves of 10. And that's why I always thought if they put 10 cents on each one,
or a nickel,
whatever.
whatever.
You'd get a free one for every 10 you drank. You see, you'd get a free one, and that would work out pretty good for a lot of these guys. But most of those nip bottles are drank by not your, you know, people who tend to have alcohol problems, let's say.
Well, it's concealment. You know, it's small, you can conceal it, you know, you can down it when, you know, driving and put it out the window, and, you know, unless somebody actually sees you doing it.
I mean, you can see them, we can follow them around. I can show you who's dropping them.
Well, yeah.
Oh, you can, it's like, yeah, it's,
I can show you who they are. I can tell you without even see. I say, okay, there's he's going to drop them. And you can follow them and see them dropping them out of their pockets as they go.
May I make a motion? To
wait,
support-
can I say just a couple more things, Judy?
Yeah.
Sorry.
That'll be after one.
I'll let it go. I'll save it for later. How's that?
Well, it's nothing for us. It's a petition article.
anyhow.
We don't weigh
No,
in
but
on those.
Well, we can vote to recommend.
To recommend it.
Motion to
I'm
recommend.
saying, but I want to make a motion to recommend.
He just
We've
did.
never done that with a petition article in the
Second.
past.
No, we've recommended them or not.
Yeah,
I
we have.
don't think so.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we have.
I don't think so.
We have.
Well, I'll second it, how's that?
I just did.
Fourth.
Okay, motion by Alan, second by Judy, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, abstained,
I'm opposed.
you're opposed, just for the reason that you don't like the idea of,
I think
I
it's not up
understand.
to us to regulate that. I think it's up to the state to come up with a solution for that problem. I think it's a good idea, don't get me wrong. I think they should put it on, but I don't think we should be regulating, you know, a lot of these liquor stores around here, that's a huge chunk of their business,
They
just
got
to
them in
say.
the cooler right in front of the cash
I mean, a huge
register.
chunk of their business, and
just reach in
it
and
will,
you get your-
it will
your
hurt
chilled
them,
shots.
it will hurt them severely. It will hurt them severely. And I think it's up to the state should have come up with a solution for this, and not up to us to make those solutions, that's all.
You know, if they sold them in sleeves of 10, go buy 10.
Yeah,
They do sell them in sleeves of 10.
They
But
call,
you know
it's
what?
called a sleeve, I
If they
believe.
want to buy a sleeve of 10, I personally, but the singles, when they have them in the cooler,
They have them in a fishbowl.
they're ready to go.
As everybody knows, I do a lot with homeless people, and it's quite often they'll say, "Yeah." I said, "Well, I had a couple of nips. How many?" "Well, I drank a couple of sleeves."
Oh,
That's
yeah.
20. I was like, "You're still walking, and you drank 20 sleeve nips, you know?"
okay, well,
All right.
thank you very much, and we'll see you at town meeting.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a comment for Jim on this also. Hello.
Why don't you call Ken up if you're going to...
Yeah, I'm gonna. Ken?
Before that, Jim, if there's nothing from the state by, say, January, then the selectmen can put together a plastic bag bill.
Either that or a citizen's petition or whatever.
Either way, I mean, there's groups out there doing it. We actually had someone at the last town meeting had to pull it because it wasn't written properly. I'm kind of surprised she didn't bring it forward again.
You know, I'm not a real fan of taking away plastic bags, but as we all know, we brought in some bags. I brought some bags. Remember the last time? They actually make a plastic bag that's made of corn.
Yep.
And it's very successful. And as long as it's built that they can use the alternatives, which, by the way, they compost faster than paper, then that's okay with me. I don't have a problem.
Yeah, it's compostable.
They compost
Compositable-
faster than paper do.
compositable.
fit faster than a paper bag.
It's all right.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's not a
I don't
petroleum
have an issue with
product.
that.
So anyhow,
Next.
Okay, next up, Director Buckland, why don't we start with Article 12, which is the marijuana testing lab setback. Why don't you tell us about that?
All right, the marijuana testing lab, it is for existing laboratories that are nearby schools. It's under the state regulations for marijuana establishments. We're allowed to change the buffer zone by a vote of town meeting. And we set a 0-foot setback since the independent laboratory that we're talking about has potentially a 0 setback from a school.
Okay, you, questions?
So this is, may I? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This is
So this would provide an
specifically the
exception.
one location next to the Deacon School.
That's-
No, this would
that-
change the bylaw, right?
It changes the bylaw so that
Only that one location.
only that one location is possible.
any existing.
That's spot zoning.
We know that.
You weren't here last week. That's exactly
Yeah,
what
when he
I
presented
asked.
it, there was the possibility. I mean,
It's not a
we
possibility, it's a guarantee.
well, the issue is, when it comes to spot zoning, you know, typically you don't run into trouble allowing a use. Where you run into trouble is when you disallow a use.
Well, it's not, the spot zoning is for a particular spot. This does not identify a particular location. It's just that it has limited applicability elsewhere within the town.
Yeah.
Because it's for
I can't
any
believe this
existing.
There could potentially be somebody in the future who could
Does
benefit
anybody
from
want to
this.
ask council any questions
I
about
did.
this?
I think we did before.
Last week.
Oh, what'd he say?
He said,
Did I miss that? He said, eh.
he said,
Did you say, eh?
Yeah, it was kind of a, yeah.
So can
That's the Mets?
I speak here?
Jim,
Can I
yeah.
ask Mr. Buckland a question? This is for
Yeah.
any
Yeah, I
existing
think,
lab
you're
to have
welcome
a
to do
zip-
this, but I don't think it's gonna
Excuse
stand.
me. Excuse me. I got the floor here. If I read it correctly, it's for any existing lab, correct?
That's correct.
It doesn't say this particular lab.
That's correct.
And at this point in time, that's the only existing lab that would meet this requirement, or need
That
this
is correct.
requirement.
The
Okay,
Yes,
one,
it just so happens.
right. I'm just saying, you know, it's just,
Yeah, that's the situation.
yeah.
Well, but the existing lab isn't there yet.
they
Yes, it
test
is.
other
It
things.
is.
It's already operating?
Yeah, they
It's
test
just
other
not testing
things.
marijuana products.
They test all sorts
It's a
of things.
testing laboratory.
And I see, they want to test marijuana products at this laboratory.
That's correct.
that's right.
I see. Okay, well, you're welcome to go forward as far as I'm concerned. I just don't think it'll hold up.
Yeah, we'll see what the state says. Anything else on this?
May I make a motion to recommend?
Alan had a question.
Oh, sorry.
Just to go over again, I think the reason this could be, a citizen or a group could, object to it and go to the AG after the fact, is that it's a school. So no matter what you say or do, it's a school, and that's one of those real touchy situations. If, and you can say it's spot zoning, it kind of is, because it doesn't exist anywhere else in town, it probably can't exist anywhere. Unfortunately, the company that wants to do it is an extremely well-run company overall, and they've been a very good neighbor for the town, and they've been a large employer, but at the same time, we had another lab that was supposed to go into Recovery Road, and I don't know what the status is. I've checked with the state, and I'm not sure whether that lab is continuing to try and get their application approved or not. So, there's only a limited number of labs they're going to approve down the road, so you may or may not get this.
Yep. Okay, we have a motion by Judy. Is there a
Yeah.
second? Whether to recommend?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Judy, seconded by Alan. All in favor of the motion to recommend, say aye.
All right?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Okay, 5-0-0 on that. Next up, Wareham Village 1 rezoning.
Could we go back just,
Yeah.
not, when Ken gets done, I'd like to re-vote on the 2 pieces of land that we agreed to take, a small little acreage.
You want to reconsider?
Okay, you would abstain on the
I want,
previous 2
I want
votes?
to change my vote from an abstain to a no. I went ahead and took pictures of the property, went down there, and I'll talk about it when we have the time. Right now, I don't want to tie Ken up.
That's fine. Yeah, we'll go back to those. Wareham Village 1 rezoning.
Article 15.
I assume everybody's had an opportunity to take a look at that.
Yeah.
What we've done with this is a result of the master planning work that the town has done, the economic development strategy, and all the planning work that's led to this point where we want to change the zoning in the downtown sub-district in the village center so that we can attract private reinvestment, private capital to reinvest and rebuild the downtown. It's set up so that the zoning is referred to different sections that apply so that where the parking is a section that applies, there's a new table put into the parking article to address the parking allowed by the village reinvestment sub-district. They're similar to the other articles, Table 320 and 330, and the table on dimensional standards under Article 6 and the design guidelines and performance standards have all been inserted into the appropriate sections in the zoning bylaw. The meat of it comes from the article, what we're calling Article 17, which would be for the purposes of the overall improvement to the Wareham Village as a town center. The couple of things about this is that there's a fairly substantial performance standards and design guidelines that are put into place to address the architecture, the uses, the green design, those elements of the design of the development projects that will be used to negotiate with the developers over the design of their projects. The other thing that was of concern was the height. Originally, we had this set up as a 65-foot height allowance. We got some kickback, or I should say feedback, from the public and the planning board on the height. So what we've proposed is something that addresses it in a different way. What we're saying is that right now, the existing height limitation in the downtown district is 40 feet. The allowance that would be provided would be to go up to 50 feet as under the existing regulations, and to allow by special permit an extension up to 65 feet to if there were some public benefits that are provided by the developer of the property. So that under special permit, if they provide public amenities, they can exceed the 50-foot height limitation and extend up to 65 feet.
And who would issue that special permit?
That would be a special permit by the planning board, which is also the site plan review authority under this regulation.
Thank you.
Questions?
Yeah, no, I'm fine with it. I just don't think it'll get anywhere when it gets there.
I mean, this is something, as Ken said, you know, it came up in the master plan to talk about, you know, rezoning, try to increase density to add value to the buildings down there. You know, some of the comments I've read, you know, publicly, people are saying, well, you know, you should just get small shops in there, you should just do this, you should just do that. Believe me, if those were viable business uses and people who have money, who like to invest and make more money, thought that that's what they could do, and go down there and keep it, you know, this quaint little village with all these funky old buildings, it would already be done and it would already be teeming. The only way to get people to places these days, and the best way really, is to have them live there. If you create a village setup then you've got people living there who can support your restaurants. People come to visit them, they'll go to the Kitschy T-shirt place, they'll do this, they'll do that. But you've got to get the people first. You can't build it and then have them come. You've got to have them come after, in concert with building it. That's the only way to develop villages these days. Retail shopping areas, Wareham Crossing, I don't know what that's going to look like in 20 years. We've got Amazon, we've got Wayfair, we've got all these different services. You go online, you click a couple buttons, boom, 3 days later the thing shows up on your doorstep. So the old retail paradigm of the village down there, it's not going to come back that way. You're not going to have, department store type things down there. You're not going to have those sorts of things. So this was, a consequence of taking a look at the information that we already had, we already knew, and also, what we were told by the outside experts, study groups, and so on and so forth who came in, and the consensus was that you had to increase density to add value to spur the development. So that's pretty much where we're at.
Well, 20 years ago or so, when we started turning that into a village district, the whole purpose was just for that, was to turn it into a village and create that look with businesses downstairs and the residents above and all that. And so anything we can do to promote that is a good thing, in my opinion. I don't see how that Main Street survives any other way. And if you if you don't believe it, just take a look at the condition of the buildings. Some of them are literally falling into the streets, and they're in very poor condition. And that's because it's hard to get anybody to come there. And until you can, really turn it into something, you're not going to have any. It's not going to be a viable district.
Yeah, 1954 is not walking through that door again, folks.
No,
It's just not.
It's just not.
So that's the impetus for
This
this.
is 2020, unfortunately, apparently, with all the stuff that's been going on in 220. But it is 2020.
Yeah. Judy?
I'd just like to say that there has been a lot of work done on this back and forth, because at one point it seemed that a board was ready to, go forward with it, and then there were objections raised. And I think that you and have done a good job of bringing the questions and the concerns into a manageable recommendation. So thank you for being able to do that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to this. As I've said before, I support the concept of mixed use and having zoning bylaws which support mixed use. So that is great. I'm not big on the 65 feet under special permit. You could do 65 feet under a special permit zoning at the point in time, right? At this point in time, couldn't you?
Got to get a variance.
No, you'd have to get a variance to do
But
that.
you could do it through the zoning.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, we'd go to the ZBA for a variance.
So I'm just saying, density increases, I said before, and I still stick with that. I'd like to see some inclusionary aspect related to that. You're going to be displacing a number of people there who are at moderate to lower income housing in those apartments that are there through the vision and the dream that you have of the grand apartments above the businesses underneath, and the large rents you'd be getting because everybody's going to want to come there. So I think we need to make sure that there's some process to try to offset the loss of that and that price point for people who may be there now. And when you increase density, it has an adverse effect on where we're at in our state mandated 10%. Everybody say, oh, you'll never reach it. Some people actually say we can reach it, and I believe you can. So it's a balance. And then I look at parking. If it's mandated that with the increased, you reduce the number of spaces needed with the increased density, So, if it's mandated, I agree with it, if it's, in black and white. If it's subject to, a decision of whether it's gonna work, I have some concern, on the number of spaces necessary. I have some concern. I understand about allowing the, tenants to have air rights over town-owned property. As long as we maintain those spaces, which the parking would be underneath, and that all of the additional parking necessary would be on their properties underneath, I'd have no problem with it. And it's just, it's a balance, and I'm just concerned about those things I mentioned. And I don't think I've wavered on what I'm discussing. And I've heard other people talk about, the density and the parking. And I understand what you're trying to do. I just look at it in a different way, I guess, and I'm not against some of the things, but on others, I think we have to be cautious. And I've seen how oftentimes, when you don't have things set out in a very concrete manner, that it can often swing one way or the other, when it's based upon just, any board, not this board in particular, any board making the decision. Thank you.
Okay, anything else for Alan?
Excuse me. The only thing I want to keep pushing, I aggravate Ken all the time about, is that all part of this requires us to be able to take advantage of the waterfront on the other side, past the railroad tracks. We need to hire, as I've talked to Ken, an engineering firm who specializes in Mass DOT type things. We have basically met with Mass DOT. They've given us a set of parameters in which we have to apply for the controlled gate crossings. They've made it so difficult that most cities and towns could never get through the process because they don't want to do it. So they try and discourage you by making it difficult.
Yep.
So when we do this, I'm expecting to see the Wareham Redevelopment Authority, in simple English, cough up some money so we can hire an engineering firm to get this done, because without this, it's going to be very hard to make it work, period.
Well, to be honest with you, those are the kinds of offsets that would be negotiated during the planning process as well. And to Jim's point about, his concern, I think is both for the people who are there now, but also, if you take the whole area, you take out the affordable units that are there, you make everything non-affordable. There needs to be some kind of offset, there needs to be some kind of contribution from that developer to try to support affordable housing somewhere else, if that's how it works.
And it
But-
can't,
And those are things that, the planning board are gonna, if this passes and somebody comes forward with a proposal, the planning board are gonna have to be tough negotiators to get these things. So,
Mr. Chairman, one thing, through you to the board, one thing I wanted to point out was that if the air rights over the town land are used, we can negotiate through a developer's agreement, which is outside of zoning, and ask for mitigation and appropriate payments to offset the costs, the value of the land that we're providing and the air rights that we're providing for the developer.
Yep.
So it's something that actually is a little tighter in terms of than zoning, and allows us to be a little bit stronger in the control of the use of the land.
I understand what you're saying, but I think you just described it. You can, it doesn't say you will. And I'm not saying you, just, in general, the word, whoever the board is making these decisions. It depends on the board and what their views and philosophies on what's best.
I'm assuming because this is town land that the Board of Selectmen, this board would be reviewing the developer's agreement and approving it.
Is that what's written?
No, it's not written, it's just what is
Well,
the-
that's so-
how the use of land, public land is negotiated.
Yeah, so that would be good. And what about related to inclusionary and offsetting either, if not providing space within the units and/or offsetting the costs associated to
relocate
provide,
these people, yeah.
So, I mean, again, that's just open to interpretation or discussion. There's nothing nothing hard and fast stating this will happen. So
I
that,
think some of those things are kind of hard to quantify right out of the gate. I think it,
well, some places do, some towns do.
yeah, but I think the way I see the process here, if this
Oh.
passes, is somebody applies to the planning board for their special permit or whatever. You know, they go through that process. You know, they come to us, you know, for the air rights, the developers agreement, and so on and so forth. So there's going to be a plenty of eyes on this. There's going to be plenty of people watching this. It's certainly not going to be something that goes through in the dark of night without any offsets and
Yeah,
just to
you-
the benefit of the developer by
You know,
any stretch.
I mean, I've heard people say, well, I wouldn't want someone only paying $800, you know, an apartment I'm paying $2,000 for and getting it for $800. I mean, so when you hear those things and you're saying, well, I mean, these decisions that could be made, then it causes one to think about it. But I'm done. I've expressed what I needed to say, and thank you for your time here.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, can we have a motion?
Move to recommend to the town meeting, Article 15.
We have a motion by Judy, seconded by Patrick. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain.
I oppose.
You're opposed for now?
Yeah.
Okay. So 4-1-0 on this. And I think that's all we had for you, if I'm...
What about the zoning?
What?
but the
Oh, yeah,
sign-
no, I missed a
sign.
couple. Yeah, sign bylaw.
And the drive-through in the CS district?
That's right, yep, so,
And attached dwellings. Which one do you want to take first?
Definition?
How about the zoning bylaw amendment, the sign zoning, number 8?
So this is a replacement of the existing Article 11 with a rewritten Article 11 for signs under the zoning regulations. The reason we did this is because the Attorney General had noted that we had conflicts in our existing sign bylaws that were in conflict with the U.S. Supreme Court's decision on what the content of signs could be, how the content of signs could be regulated, or in this case, not regulated. So that it's a freedom of speech essentially issue that signs can't be regulated by content. So this is a new section. It's written with the previous approval by the Attorney General.
Okay, so the problem that there was with it has been fixed?
Yes.
That's
Good.
right, the problems.
I recommend that we,
Second.
okay, motion to recommend by Judy, seconded by Patrick. Anything else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. 5-0-0 on that one. Now, drive-throughs in the commercial strip.
Right, now, under our existing regulations, drive-throughs, restaurants and non-food drive-ins or drive-throughs are allowed in the general commercial district. This adds the strip commercial district to the allowed districts in which a drive-through could be located. It comes with the same standards of restrictions that are applied to the existing drive-throughs in the general commercial district. This is the newest that was just recently passed last year by town meeting. The restrictions are to keep the circulation out of the highways and not to cause conflict with turning movements in and out of the property.
Move to,
second.
Alan?
Ken, do we have a list of the areas that where this is going to have an effect?
This would be on the eastern side of town where the highway work is being done. That's mostly all strip commercial. It would also apply to sections in West Wareham where the Route 28 corridor is also zoned strip commercial.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, there's a couple of parcels up towards the Rochester line, a couple of parcels with maybe a half-mile stretch up there or something like that.
There's a large section of parcels.
Yeah, there's also another one that's embedded, I think, just past around the industrial somewhere.
Yeah.
Regulation's pretty good to keep them from keeping control of their drive-through so that it doesn't spill into the road or into the highway.
Yeah.
So, I just have a question on that. So if a business, has their own lot and it's not part of a development, they can have a road cut right onto 28 to come out, correct? I mean, as it is now with the ones going into the plazas, the circulation from the drive-through comes out into the plaza, and then they have to come out of the main road coming out of the plaza. But if someone has a property with the correct frontage and square footage, is this saying that they can't have a drive-through?
It's potentially that they could not have a drive-through. They'd have to get the review by the zoning board of appeals under the special permit provisions and make a determination as to whether or not it was allowed in the design of the site, if the site was appropriate to the requirements and the standards that are applied to any other drive-through.
And is all of this under special permit from the zoning
It's
board
under
of appeals?
special permit, that's correct.
All of it, right?
That's right.
Thank you.
Alan?
Also, if it's going to be located, as an example, on Route 28, you have to get state approval, which is extremely difficult to get curb cuts without following a bunch of their regulations for traffic flow as well.
Unless you already have curb cuts.
Even if you have a curb cut, if you're going to sit there and change things, you still have to get it approved.
Thank you.
I mean, if you look at what happened with Walmart and that whole development and stuff down the line, it was very difficult. Toby Road was okay because it wasn't state road, but even that got close to this traffic light. But the actual in and out over on Route 28, the state required a lot of things to make that happen.
Okay.
There's a motion and a second.
Yep. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, abstained, 500. And I guess now we can let you go, right?
No, number 13, residential use
13.
definitions.
Oh, residential use, that's right.
This is the definition of attached dwelling units, so that they are actually attached
Parting wall.
with a common wall in between. This definition was written by a former member of the planning board who was an architect, and so we found that it's well-written and does make the case for having attached dwelling units and making them look like duplexes or triplexes or quadplexes as appropriate.
Sounds like a good deal. I'll
Yeah.
move it.
Second.
Okay, motion to recommend by Judy,
This
seconded
is
by
closing the
Jim.
barn door after
Yeah,
the
it
horses
is.
got out.
Yeah,
You know
well,
what? It's a step in the
we're
right
keeping the herd in
direction.
we're keeping the herd in the barn. One got
Yeah.
loose. But the rest of them
That's
are in
what
the,
this is.
the rest of them are in the barn. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, abstained, 500. All right, let me just check. I don't think anything else is yours.
I think
You're
everybody's
free to
happy.
go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
All right, why don't we jump down to chart 2 on the charter? I don't think any of the ones up top, we don't have a capital plan, correct?
That's correct.
Derek? Do we have a capital plan?
I'll send, if we have any updates, I'll send it to you before the
Okay,
meeting.
so we're not gonna vote on that. Free cash, nothing?
Nope,
Prior year bills?
nope,
All right, union contracts?
nope.
All right, so you're just a nope. Going down, town charter, chart 2.
Okay.
Got these broken out into items A through I, so what I'm gonna ask for is a vote on each of these, because I know some people may not be unanimous on all of them, so.
Okay, so what I had, make sure that all of you have is a copy of the warrant article as submitted, and then the explanation of the specific sections, hopefully in the same order that the sections are there. So, for instance, definitions is a change in section 7.6. And if you turn the page, it says, and it's not entirely correct, but it says, the definitions for department head, facilities, fixture, media have been added to the section, and also the word newspaper has been removed in recommendation. Doesn't say that on this copy, but that is the case. I apologize for it not showing up there.
Okay,
But it is on
you wanna
file,
just-
it's on file with the town clerk, it's on file on the website, it's on file on the news.
okay, we might as well just roll down, I guess. Item A is the definitions.
Yep.
We have a motion to recommend, discussion if we need it.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Patrick and seconded by Judy to recommend the definitions changes. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. We're good with that, 500.
Okay.
Moving down,
Transitional provisions.
transitional,
The transitional provisions, there are several in section 8-4. The change recommends removal of the section about executive secretary, which no longer is a position. That should have been taken out a long time ago. The time of taking effect, which is also in section 8.4. The change recommends updating the language by deleting verbiage about appointing a town administrator subsequent to the passage of the charter. Obviously, that has been done. It's in the past, so that language should probably go away. And then furthermore, in the time of taking effect, this change removes language no longer needed due to changes in the charter, and it has to do with the appointment as opposed to, it has to do with the collector treasurer, which was also at one point an elected position and is now appointed.
Shouldn't
So-
there also be a inclusion of the sewer commissioners, which was put in 8-4 when we converted over? Shouldn't that,
That's in 3.7, that's further down, Mr. Slavin. I think,
but it's part of 8-4, though? Is it not? I believe that's what I wrote originally when I did that.
Mrs. Heath did that.
Hmm?
You didn't do that. Mrs. Heath did that.
No, 8-4 was how they basically, when the sewer commissioners were put in, when they took effect
Okay.
in the process. I did that, and that was in 8-4.
and it has to, it's already been done. It has to do with the performance of duties. I'm looking at section 8.4. I can read you what it says. At the time the charter change is adopted, when the sewer commissioners are no longer the Board of Selectmen, but are now elected, the existing sewer commissioners shall perform the duties of said office until the newly elected sewer commissioners are qualified, blah, 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 blah.
I'm just saying that should probably be eliminated, too.
I think we covered it, sir, under 3.7 and 3, in the section 3.7.
But it doesn't say you're eliminating it in 8-4 is all I'm getting at. That means it still stays there.
I'm sorry?
You're not saying that you're eliminating in 8-4. You may cover it somewhere else, but it's still going to be printed in the charter in 8-4. I'm not trying to be difficult, I'm just
I
saying.
understand what you're saying. It's one of those that we missed. How about that?
That's all I'm trying to get at. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, now, wait a minute. Hang on. Let me look at my proposed. Take it back. We did it.
It's just not here, that's all.
It's not there as listed
You're gonna,
at the sewer commissioners, but it's in the proposed charter on page 36, and it has been removed from the current charter. I
Okay.
didn't specify.
Yeah, you'll have to add another item for your 8.4 here,
That's all.
just to cover that then. But that's just in what you handed to us.
Right,
So
okay.
if you're gonna use this as a handout, at town meeting, I would suggest
Okay, I will,
just checking it against the changes one more time, see.
Move to recommend.
Second.
Okay,
Transitional
motion to recommend transitional provisions by Patrick, seconded by Alan. All in favor, say aye.
aye.
Opposed, abstain.
I'm gonna abstain on
I'm going to abstain from that one. Okay, 401.
You're an abstention, Jim?
Yeah,
that.
he is.
I'm an abstention.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next up, capital planning.
Okay, the capital planning change recommends replacing the word town accountant with the words finance director as a member. This committee, the capital planning committee, is concerned with long-term planning, not simply accounting. We discussed that with the town administrator, as well as the finance director, as well as the town accountant. And none of them had a problem with it.
Move approval.
Okay, move to recommend by Patrick, seconded by Alan.
Now I have a question, sorry.
We got a question, okay.
I believe on the Mass General Law, when we went through this a long time ago, the town accountant is supposed to provide certain financial reports for the town on a yearly basis, also going forward. It may or may not be in our charter, but it's definitely on the Mass General Law, and that's why the town accountant was put into capital planning originally. The position of finance director did not exist, obviously, back
Yeah.
then.
That's
But all I'm saying is to eliminate the town accountant, because it's just accounting is not what they do. They have other requirements. They actually have to file with the state every year, et cetera.
That does not mean that that individual cannot serve. It is simply that the makeup of the capital planning requires that the finance director is now a member. It does not say that the town accountant cannot be a member. In other words, right now, the finance director is a member by being placed on it. He's not.
But you're eliminating the town accountant?
No, I'm saying, what I'm doing is, or what I'm recommending is, the finance director would now be a member
By charter.
by charter.
A voting member, correct?
Yes, and the town accountant could also be a member.
Not unless you sit there and change the capital planning to include it as an ex officio, non-voting, whatever you want to do. It's a legislative committee.
Well, the only thing,
Replacing it.
I'm simply switching bodies.
yeah,
But you can't say you're going to put the town accountant as also a member of the committee.
well, I guess, one of the things we have to realize is that, town meeting is just the precursor vote to this. If town meeting approves this section, then we file a petition for a special act through our elected representatives. And typically, when the language is written for that, it says, notwithstanding any other provision in the general laws, meaning that this method and, who gets appointed takes precedence over the state law. Because remember, the charter is state law, because
Understand.
they have to pass it, so.
Okay, so may I read what the new charter proposal would be for capital planning, sir? May I read the
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. The Capital Planning Committee, the Finance Director, and the Town Administrator shall serve by virtue of their offices. One member shall be appointed by and from the Planning Board. One member shall be appointed by and from the Finance Committee. And the remaining 3 members shall be appointed by the appointing authority, who shall be the Town Moderator, who shall be the Chair of the appointing authority, the Chair of the Select Board, and the Chair of the Finance Committee. The town may, by bylaw, provide for other conditions regarding these appointments. So there's nothing to say that the town accountant cannot serve. In fact, that last item, number 4, gives the appointing authority the latitude to, in fact, appoint that position or that individual holding that position. My
Well,
glasses are fogging up. That's not
okay.
fair.
Yeah,
I'll disagree on that one.
all right. So, anything else on the capital planning makeup?
No, sir.
Do we have a motion?
We'll need a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Patrick, seconded by Judy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Aye.
You're opposed? Okay, and no
It says
abstentions?
replace.
I'm sorry?
It says replace.
Oh, it does, but
Yeah.
it's perfectly legal to
Specifically
replace.
says replace.
Right.
It's
I-
not, you can't, it just says replace.
I guess my point is,
I understand what
we
you're
we can
saying.
replace. If you think the accountant is somebody
Well, you
who's
could
more important
say
to be on there,
You could
then,
have just added a person if you wanted to.
Well, I mean, you could theoretically
So,
see if
but
the town
anyhow, that's,
accountant.
we made the vote, let's move on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, sewer,
Sewer, okay. The Board of Sewer Commissioners became elected officials, so under 3.7B, change includes a complete reformatting of the section and removes the responsibility of the appointment of the sewer superintendent from the commissioners, which now have the authority to appoint the sewer superintendent. All sewer department employees are under the administrative control of the town administrator. So that would make it, a clear, can't even speak anymore. Help me out here. The town administrator would be in the appointing position for all members of the sewer
water pollution control facility.
water pollution control. And the sewer commissioners would have the right to either say yes, say no, or leave it for the same 15 days that
They would have the same ratification
they would have the
process.
same
After
ratification
the appointment,
After the notice of
after
of
the notice
offer.
of the appointment.
after someone's had an offer,
Right.
That's correct.
which is bizarre. It is absolutely bizarre. You offer someone a job, and then you ask someone to ratify it after, then you tell them, oh, geez, they said they don't want you, you can't have the job. That whole process is bizarre and backwards. And I've made this point before.
And
Welcome to
then
municipal government.
further, the appointment of the try and say it fast 5 times. The sewer superintendent would be appointed by the town administrator.
Okay. Anything,
Those actual changes were run by the Board of Sewer Commissioners, who are supportive of it.
Second.
okay, motion to recommend by Patrick, seconded by Alan. Any discussion further? No? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstain? 410 on this one. Assessors.
Okay, the assessors, where are we? Turn the page, Judy. The assessors, what was in the charter simply did not comply with the law anymore. So this section was rewritten with the guidance of the Director of Assessment to correctly reflect the duties and responsibilities of the elected assessors as well as the Director of Assessment under Massachusetts law. And it went from basically a page of pretty difficult stuff to understand, in my opinion, but, whatever. It went to a simple, it went to the same kind of setup that is recommended throughout. It has the Board of Assessors, their composition, the powers and duties, what the Director of Assessment is responsible for, and that's it. So it complies with the law and just cleans up the language that was overdue for cleaning up.
Questions?
Do the Board of Assessors discuss this and take vote to approve or not approve changes as presented?
I don't honestly know
Okay,
the
thank you.
answer to that question, but I know that the Director of Assessment probably brought it to their attention. I don't, yeah.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion to recommend by Patrick, seconded by Alan. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Me?
You oppose? Abstain? 410. Okay, charter changes.
Charter changes, okay. Charter changes. There are several sections, and the first one, we recommend including the word "and its amendments," for the powers of the town. The second one recommends changing this section to reflect the accurate date of the October annual fall town meeting. It actually said sometime in October, and we brought it in line with the bylaw. The committees, the change recommends adding the phrase, "The following committees are permanent committees of the town." It just is more clarification. Charter changes 7.1. Change states that the Select Board or Board of Selectmen may appoint a charter review committee from time to time, as well as on the required years ending in 9. That we felt was important because if that had been done from time to time, some of these changes would have been done a long time ago. The uniform procedures, the change recommends the records of multiple member boards be kept by the town clerk on the town website and removes the library as a repository. And I'm not sure whether the library has been getting them for a long time anyway.
No.
And the 7.9 removals and suspension, the change recommends shortening the section to only the first sentence with the addition of the words or collective bargaining agreements after the word civil service. This change is consistent with current law and modern human resources procedures. And the last one, there was this dangling sentence at the end of the charter saying publication, and so we recommend getting rid of it because it wasn't even in a section. It just was sort of there.
A 6-toe, huh?
Huh?
Vestigial remnant.
It just was weird, yeah.
That's
Okay.
it.
All right, Alan?
On 7-1.
Yep.
Rich can double check it for me, but I believe Mass General Law allows the Board of Selectmen anytime they want. I think if 2 members or more petition for it, they can have a charter review committee, and also 2 citizens at any time get together. They can get signatures and get it done, so I don't see why we need to put it in there, because it already exists as available to anybody.
May I respond to that?
Yeah.
The committee group felt very strongly that from time to time, the selectmen should get a nudge, and also recognized that other individuals could bring changes for the charter to the Board of Selectmen from time to time. We felt very strongly that it needed to be said that this is not something that you try and push under the carpet.
Is it this? It already exists.
And we wanted to be specific that it's a good idea, basically.
Then I think we should have added that the private citizens can also bring it forth.
That's under the law.
They can do that with 10 signatures anyway.
I
Right.
know, but if we're going to make it, the only reason to do this is to make it so that people know the selectmen can do it, why can't notify the public
Well, yeah,
also?
they always can, that's,
But they always can, and they know that.
we've seen petition articles come forward to amend the
We know
charter,
we
so
can.
it's,
Well, we just had,
That's all right, doesn't matter. Let's just move it
yeah.
on.
All right, I'm
Take
just,
the
you know,
vote, and we vote as we do.
yep.
Any other questions
I mean,
on this one?
you can't change it, right?
no,
It's there.
we're done. The committee has made its
And
recommendations.
you're dangling participle there.
Yeah, don't,
It's not a dangling participle.
Yeah, we could just vote for either to recommend it or not to.
That's
yeah,
correct.
exactly. Can we get a motion?
Move to recommend.
So we're going to do 1-4 all the way due to 7-9 as one item?
Well, we can do 7-1 if you want first, and that way you can vote.
Yeah, I don't know how much we want to split this out.
Yeah,
and-
I
and
don't-
Confuse it, because
Go ahead.
this has been done with the moderator also, in consultation, because
And
what
town
she intends to
council.
do at town meeting is to divide the question into these categories.
Okay.
To have votes that way.
All right, move to recommend 7-1 through 7-9.
Okay?
Yep.
Motion to recommend by.
No, you mean 1-4?
1-4 and
1-4, I'm
7-9.
sorry, 1-4, oh,
About the
yeah.
whole category, charter
I'm sorry, the
changes.
whole
Side,
category,
7-1.
Whole
charter
category of
changes.
charter changes. Okay, so
I
that's,
forgot.
that's
I'm
the
sorry.
motion by Patrick, seconded by
Correction.
I'll second it.
Judy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
And abstained, 3-2-0. Town clerk.
I'm sorry, those were 2 opposed?
3-2-0.
Yep, I'm tracking these, Judy.
Okay,
This was,
the
this
town
one was
clerk.
really overdue.
2, 1.
okay. I'm sorry?
Swirsky.
Okay,
On it.
Town Clerk, Section 3.1. Change recommends inclusion of the words Board of Sewer Commissioners because they are now, in fact, elected. It just never got changed. It also recommends removal of the words Town Clerk, presuming that the recommendation to make the Town Clerk appointed rather than elected is acted upon. In the second portion, 3.2, this change recommends that the Select Board, Board of Selectmen, appoint the Town Clerk, and that the town,
Who appoints
that's not right. The Town Administrator appoints the,
It's going to be,
no, that's, yeah, the Town Administrator appoints the Town Clerk.
That's what it says.
Yeah, and then, yes, it's a typo. It's a scrivener's error on 3.2. I'll fix that.
3.2C, it should say
3.2C.
that we ratify, or the Board of Selectmen would ratify.
Okay, and then 3.6, the change recommends that the town clerk become appointed by the town administrator as other department heads are now appointed. This recommendation has the town clerk's full support. According to the Massachusetts Municipal Association, more than a third of the towns in Massachusetts have already adopted this change. It seems to be the way things are going.
Two-thirds have.
Hey, any,
Move to recommend.
motion to recommend by
Second.
Patrick, seconded by Judy. Any more discussion?
Again, it's more the process and appointing a person. I think the selectmen should voice their opinions and have discussion about the hiring of key and top appointed people in the town, not after the fact, but before the fact, so that offers aren't made and then possibly rescinded. And there's 4 or 5 positions. I discussed this previously with other people, and I haven't changed my mind on that. We should have input on top positions beforehand. I understand some of the positions below director or department, the super department heads, whatever you want to call them in your, the format here, but you know what, I'm not willing to give that up. I mean, I might be a minority, but I don't mind appointing, but not in the process that's been set up.
Anything else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstain? That one's a 4-1-0. Town Administrator section.
Okay, the town administrator section, the recommended changes clarify the appointing authority of the town administrator. So it includes the sewer superintendent. Yay, I said it without sputtering. And then in section 4-2B, the recommended change clarifies that department head appointments made by the town administrator are the only appointments the select board, Board of Selectmen, has the right to affirm or deny. This change is consistent with the charter's long-standing theme that the members of the select board, Board of Selectmen, are not to be involved in the day-to-day affairs and business of the town. And then 4.4A, the recommended change clarifies that 4 members of the select board must vote to adopt a preliminary resolution of removal or suspension of the town administrator.
That's the way it was always meant to be.
Yes.
I think it was 3 originally, but
It
Yeah,
was
we
a
changed it to 4,
percentage.
but it didn't get done properly.
It was done by a percentage. It was like
Yeah, it
3.5
was- it
people.
got
Yeah, they
screwed
talked
up.
about a supermajority and 3/4 of a vote.
It should always
or-
be a supermajority. I mean, if you're gonna be firing a town administrator, you can't have him being fired by every board that comes in. A new guy changes, you get 3 votes and somebody goes out the door. It should be a supermajority.
yeah, I think when you hire, it's a supermajority too, though,
Yeah.
so it should be consistent.
Yes.
Yeah, that should be changed too. It should be a supermajority that decides the
It actually
hiring and
is.
firing of the town
But
administrator.
the hiring is a
It
supermajority.
is already.
Yeah.
It is already, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
It is.
Those-
Because that's the way it should be.
This makes it consistent as
What
far as...
about if it should, maybe it should state for the selectmen in office at that time, what happens if you only had 4 selectmen? It'd have to be a
Then the,
unanimous
And you
vote.
better get all 4.
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah,
You know, the way to put
No,
it
I'm
in
just
there,
saying.
yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah,
the way to put it in there is to just put supermajority, and then that'll, but then see.
of the
if you did
selectmen,
that- Yeah, but if you did that, maybe only 4 are sitting on it that night, and 1's home. And that shouldn't be fair either. I mean, everybody should be there. If you're gonna fire a town administrator, that's a pretty serious thing, in my opinion.
what happens if there's only 4
And
selectmen
it
on
has
the board at that point in time?
Well, somebody,
Period.
dies or resigns in office.
Whatever.
Well, then
No,
I,
excuse me, let me read you what we have recommended. Section 4-4A, removal of, and suspension. A, notice. The Select Board, Board of Selectmen, may, at a regularly scheduled meeting attended by the full board, adopt by the affirmative votes of 4 members.
But you're saying 4 members.
No, I'm saying the full
board.
board.
what's a vacant, how does a vacant seat comport with a full board?
Let's see, 75% would work.
Well, then 3 out of 4 could,
Members.
then
No,
3 out of 4 could
No,
fire
that's
him.
3.5 people.
That's how we got it talked into the 75% last
Oh.
time.
I think it is. I think you're,
I think that's
I
how
think
we
you
got
hit on it. I
talked
think,
into it last
I
time.
think
and
we're
it-
having the same argument.
But anyhow,
And let me tell you, during the reign of terror
Yeah.
that took place around here, that was a pretty big issue.
Sure was.
It sure was.
Midnight
And we don't want to go there again.
That was a costly period.
That was a costly period, the reign of terror,
We
as
were
we
writing
call it.
settlement checks left and right.
Unfortunately, that particular town administrator just recently died.
it had to be a little different than what we're discussing here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we operate quite like that.
Not yet.
Anyway, motion to recommend?
So moved.
Second.
Motion to recommend by Patrick, seconded by Alan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm opposed. I don't agree with the language.
Yep. Abstain. Okay, 4-1-0 on that one.
Okay, and then road commissioners. The recommendation, which actually the Commission Charter Review Committee made back in April, recommended abolishing the road commissioners and having the duties revert to the Select Board, Board of Selectmen, under Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 22. Road commissioners were created in 2010. In previous discussions with the Board of Selectmen, Select Board, indicated that they supported this change. I have been following the reason this came up was the road commissioners were part of the charter. They had been plunked in there, and they weren't parallel construction with anything else there. So we tried originally to make them, by bylaw, a commission that served under the bylaws. When we brought that to this board back in March or April, we were informed by town council that we couldn't do that, that the recommendation could not be made that way, that if the road commissioners were no longer under the charter, that then they disappeared, and the Board of Selectmen, which had always done the work, would revert to the Board of Selectmen.
Correct.
It's really too late in the evening for me to be explaining things.
There you go. Patrick?
Okay, so I just want everybody to understand why this change took place with the road commissioners being taken from the Board of Selectmen. It's strictly because the Board of Selectmen that set up here at the time didn't have the guts to make the decision when it came to parking in Onset. It's as simple as that. And I can even name the individuals and what was going on, and that's the reason why they said they gave it away. They actually asked to give it away, is what they really wanted to do, because they didn't want to stand up here and make those hard decisions when it came to road issues. And they can be difficult, especially when you're talking about permitting in Onset and all these different places and so on. This was problematic all along. I mean, there's no reason why the Board of Selectmen shouldn't have stayed and still serve as road commissioners, in my opinion.
Okay. Alan?
I'm going to disagree with Patrick a little bit on this one. This particular article, obviously, I have my hands on from back in 2010. The reason that the group voted to pull the sewer commissioners and the road commissioners away from the selectmen at that time was they did not either have the time or the initiative to handle either one of these jobs properly. There was a lot of issues with the sewer commissioner section as far as the project that we had. The project was split into three pieces. The cost was supposed to be $9,000, per household, and all of a sudden it got split into three. And it was really kind of amazing that the Parkwood Oak Street, which unfortunately I'm part of, was now 15,000. Oakdale was going to be 21,000, and then Agawam Beach was going to be 35,000. It was just, it was really ridiculous. And also, I can remember being on capital planning, listening to the Board of Selectmen at that time say, well, maybe we should take Avenue A and move it, across the street for the actual pump station. No, we're going to move it down here, there. Every time they made a change order, it cost the town money. The reason we pulled the road commissioners out was for the same reason. They weren't making the decisions. The stuff was going between the planning board, the assessors, the road commissioners / selectmen, and we had people actually fighting about a road name, if you remember. There was a selectman that had a particular road name that he wanted a certain way, and there was just constant stuff, and that's why we pulled it at that time.
May I just add, I'm sorry, I should have explained something a little bit further. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Now what happens is the Director of Assessment works very closely with the road commissioners as well as the planning board to talk about new names, because streets, as we all know, there's Avenue A, there's Street A, there's over Jordan, there's beyond Jordan. I mean, there's just this. It's a mess, and
It's Mayflower.
Yeah. So what happens now, the road commissioners, we have three full-time employees of the town who sit on this commission. Their recommendations would come to the selectmen if the selectmen took this back, just like they were being made to the selectmen way back in 2009, we'll say, before this happened. There are many decisions that sort of are pushed off and pushed off and pushed off. And
Didn't have the guts to make the decisions.
so,
It's easy to pass.
I'm sorry?
It's just easy to pass.
Pass it off.
Yeah, it is easy, yeah.
That's exactly why. They didn't have
My
the guts.
only concern with the change really is that you have to have the director of municipal maintenance involved somehow. You have to have the police chief involved, EMS, harbor master, and somehow we actually have to have the fire department, which is a separate district, somehow have input. So the only concern I have is if they can't do this, ahead of time by writing letters, and if they have to come to a selectmen's meeting, that's putting a real push on people that already work a full day to come here.
They have to be here.
So, they have to be here in front of us, really, to get answers a lot of times, because you'll have questions. They may make a recommendation, yes, you have a question, you can't get an answer. It just slows the process down. So as long as you understand if we do this, it's probably going to require those 4 people to show up here.
The 3 full-time people who spend several hours getting ready for these meetings would, from time to time, have to come to these meetings. I discussed this change with Mr. Teitelbaum and suggested that in order to avoiding the issues, that streets, that road business go on an agenda once a month, just like we're having the trash issue every week or the COVID update every week, that road issues would be a standard thing once a month. Now, that's up to the chairman, of course, and it doesn't mean anything, it's just a recommendation.
Well, if we're going to do what I would like to see is as a dedicated, separate meeting, maybe not on a Tuesday, number one, and number two, the road commission meetings, a lot of times there's nothing for them to do, and all of a sudden something comes out of nowhere, and you've got to schedule it. A lot of times they don't get scheduled for a month, versus if you have it open and you have an open date, you can schedule 48 hours at any time. My only concern is that if we're going to get involved with this, that we have the assets that we need to make a proper decision and get it done quickly.
I agree with you, sir. I don't think that the intent was to slow the process down
No,
from
it
the
wasn't.
commission.
It's just, it's.
Move to approve.
We're consolidating power more and more, that's my
Recommend, sorry.
concern.
That's exactly right. Second.
Okay, we have a motion to recommend by Patrick, seconded by Judy. All in favor, say
Well,
aye.
I got some discussion.
Oh, you got some stuff on this? Go ahead.
Just quick, did the road commission take a vote on, whether to, support this or not?
No, they did not.
I thought they did once in the summer, and also, I don't know if it was on the agenda the other day when they just
It was
met.
not on the agenda.
I thought they had voted to keep the road commission as it was, and that was a while ago. So anyhow, that was just my question, but thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion by Patrick, seconded by Judy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain simply because I haven't heard from any of those town employees as to which they'd prefer.
In the road commission.
If they, on the road commission, if they speak up and say, yes, we'd prefer to go back under the selectmen, then that's fine. And if they say no, then that's fine too. But I just, I don't feel comfortable trying to take this back without hearing from them first, so
Yeah,
that's my abstention. So that one's 311.
If you want to put this off for a week and go back out, to see even get an input,
Well, I mean,
because if they
we
can't.
gotta get it, the thing is we gotta get these changes in so that they can make it into the book.
Do we have time for next week or
So
not?
if we
We
could do
can
it next
always
week,
Well, we
then
could-
that's
revote it
fine.
if
We could
if hear
revote it,
Something
because
different.
just like you want to revote the two that you already did.
Do me a favor then, let's ask them, so if there
let's
is
ask
a
them.
difference, we can go back next week on it.
Yeah.
Because if they were to say they're not happy with that idea, then I would change my vote.
It's kind of hard to ask somebody to vote themselves out of existence, but
Yeah, it
okay.
is.
Of course
But
it is.
okay.
Yeah,
Um,
we probably tried that with the districts and how'd that go?
Yeah, that didn't go so
sure.
well.
Didn't go so well.
That didn't go so.
Art-
So well.
Go ahead
Mr.
and try that one.
Titlebaum, I would like to, I was on the majority side on Article 6 and Article 7. I would move to reconsider Article 6, which is the gift of land from the Ellicone Trust.
Thank you.
Motion to reconsider, why
So
don't we just do
move second, rather.
Do we want to do 6 and 7 together?
Yeah,
Yeah.
do them together.
No.
Or do we have different
They're
opinions?
separate parcels, right?
They're separate parcels.
Yeah, they're not
Let's
together.
do them separate.
All right, that's
Okay.
fine. Okay, so we have a motion to reconsider from Judy on gift
Item
of land
6.
Ellicone Trust,
Yes.
seconded by Alan.
Yep.
So this is just to reconsider the prior vote, and so we can have a new vote. All in favor of reconsideration, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Okay, reconsideration is available, so what's your,
I'll move to approve, recommend approval.
you're going to move to recommend approval?
Yep.
Okay, and we have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, this is to approve or recommend approval, so if you don't
Goodbye.
like if you don't like it, say no. All in favor?
Let me explain why I'm asked this to come back.
Yeah.
I have a picture here, one I can show you the other. One is a pond, the other is a piece of marsh. They're really not easily accessible. I went over there yesterday and had to trudge in with my wife because conservation was curious. These are things that can never be developed. There's no reason for the town to take them over. They have no value. There's actually some other land around there we found that are owned by citizens that don't even live in Wareham and haven't for years that are the same issue. So it's just, it's not accessible, it's not anything. I don't see any reason why to take it over because it doesn't do us anything at all.
Well, except that we're gonna own them anyway, because they're not gonna pay the taxes, and they're gonna become, land of low value anyway, and we're gonna own them anyhow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I suppose what's the
It doesn't
administrative
matter.
cost of
It's-
doing that
you-
versus just going to town meeting and have them say, yeah, take the land?
Can
Well-
I just ask, you said that there are people who live around it.
No, there are people that have some property that don't live there anymore. They have these little pieces around one of the units in particular that are no, I have a friend that lives in Marietta in Georgia. His name, we came up, we were really surprised. He owns the property that his dad owned, and that piece abuts this, and it's all water, all
Okay, but is
marsh.
there a home on that?
No,
No,
nothing.
so there's, okay, thank you.
So these are all vacant parcels,
These are just things you can't build.
right?
Right, thank you.
So I just don't see why we take it at all.
Okay, now, was one of them surrounded by homes, right? Perch Pond is surrounded by homes,
One of them has
correct?
one of them has a home, you have to go into their driveway to go look at it.
Right, but there's other houses around that Perch Pond.
Not really, there's only that one house there, and the other stuff is, it's there, there's other pieces.
One of them's a marsh, part of the marsh,
That's correct.
correct?
And that's the one you gotta go
And who
through.
owns the property on either side? Does the town own the property on either side of that one?
The town has some property, pieces on one of the two areas, but
Right.
again, it's something you can easily get access to, and there's nothing you can use.
So
Well, we
I-
probably
I
got it from
agree-
land of low value anyway.
I agree on the concept, and I did hear someone for the FinCom express, parcels which are surrounded by other, a parcel such as one of them, I think it's Perch Pond, I think it's called, surrounded by other homes. I mean, people are, they butt it and they might be putting stuff there and dumping it. And there was I know there, but I'm just saying that was a concern that the FinCom was bringing up. The parcel, the other parcel, which is, I believe abuts town-owned marshland, does it have any value? No. Besides that, it's contiguous with possibly other town-owned land. So it adds to what we already have. That's all I can say, because I had looked at them, and it's been a while, but
Well, we get it, we'll
I know
get
what
some,
it is, it's a marsh.
we'll get some benefit in our
It's
open
marsh and
space
water.
calculation.
The other one is just all water, there's no land whatsoever.
That's true. Minimal, but
Yeah, it's minimal, but
That
it
counts,
is what it
right?
is. It's something better than nothing. you
It's
know?
okay. Like I said, I just wanted to bring it back because I want to change my vote.
okay.
Okay,
All in favor of the motion to recommend, say aye.
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 Those opposed?
Which one?
We're doing
This is
six.
the Ellicone,
The
number six.
Ellicone.
Is that Perch Pond, or is that, yeah, I'll say no.
You're opposed to that one, too?
Ellicone, yeah, because it's just, get
Okay.
houses around it.
Then I will change the vote
32.
to 3-2-0.
I will move to reconsider Article 7, as I was on the majority side.
So, second.
Okay, motion to reconsider our prior vote on number 7 to recommend.
I move to,
Judy, and seconded by Patrick. All in favor,
aye.
reconsideration, say aye.
Aye.
Now I move,
Abstain, 5-0-0 on reconsideration. Now can we have
now I
another vote
move to recommend.
Second.
Okay, motion to recommend by Judy, seconded by Patrick. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Alan? Jim?
No, I'm not opposed to that.
You're not opposed to this one? Abstain, 4-1-0 on this one.
We're gonna end up with both of them anyway, no matter
we are.
what happens.
I just want to be on record.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's okay.
And let's see,
I understand what he was saying about one of them.
solid waste and recycling fee, I don't think we're ready for that yet. Revolving account, not yet, right?
We already voted on that, right?
We,
I don't think we did.
We voted to increase it, didn't we? No?
Yeah, that's what's on the warrant article to
The
increase
warrant
it.
article is for that, but what was the recommendation?
no, we
Judy?
haven't,
We don't have any
we
recommendation
don't have
for
any
23 yet.
recommendation for 22 or 23 until next week.
Okay. The revolving is just the revolving.
And
Increased it, right?
Yeah, that's the one that's 2.5 million now.
Yeah, I think FinCom voted on it.
okay, so we'll pick up on that. Do we want to do that now, or what?
No, let's do it next week when we do both of them, please. Because
All
I
right.
really haven't had the opportunity to read it, and I don't mean to be a pain in the neck,
Oh, that's
but
fine.
it's also
Uh,
4 minutes of 10.
Rename the school, Mr. Flaherty emailed today and said that he wasn't going to be able to make it. We're doing this next week, and he can come in and talk about it then.
I don't have a
We'll
problem.
re-invite him.
I don't have a problem with
And
it.
I guess that takes care of most of this, so took a while, but it was worth going through.
Well, had to get done.
Yep, had to get done. Let's see, any other town business not reasonably anticipated 48 hours prior to the posting of this meeting? Alan?
No.
No.
Patrick, no.
No.
Judy, no. Jim?
No.
No 48-hour business? I don't have any either. Town administrators report?
I've
And
got
make it a
about-
quick one, because you got like 30 seconds.
Yeah, I got about 7 pages here. No, I'm okay. We went over everything.
Did you see this?
That's a
almost
kidder,
jumped- I
that
almost jumped
town
over.
administrator.
No way.
Jumped over this thing.
Yeah,
He's a real kidder.
cute.
Move that back down to a simple majority, will you?
You got anything? Nothing?
We've gone over.
Liaison initiative, we're coming up against the hour of 10, so what do we want to do here?
I will move that we approve the minutes of September 29th, 2020, as they are presented in,
If you go back to what you just asked, I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I just want to let the public know that there was no new changes today in the LGAC meeting as far as Phase 3, Step 2. What was not very happy to hear was that they're a little concerned because the numbers are starting to move up, which is not a good thing. And they're actually made a statement today. They're looking at least the second quarter of 2021 for possible Phase 4.
second quarter of 2021, is that what you just said?
Yes.
Thank you.
Phase 4.
Everybody can read what I sent out this afternoon.
Thank you.
Yeah, I did read that. Okay, Patrick, liaising, no? Judy,
I'm not
liaising,
doing
no?
anything. It's almost 30 seconds,
It's
so.
all right. I have an Affordable Housing Trust meeting next Tuesday, 9 AM, across the way in the town meeting. Had a meeting yesterday with CMW. I won't go into details, but we're trying to push forward. That's it.
Yep, thank you. I don't have anything. Can we get a motion to approve those minutes?
I made it.
Seconded by Jim. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, let's, 500. Let's have the last motion, please.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alan, seconded by Judy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. Good night, Wareham. And we got it done in time. How about that?